Chapter 4340. In front, it should be Huiyang Star Field. Jian Wu's eyes flickered. According to the introduction of the universe map, the crater of Huiyang was filled with volcanoes, flowing magma, and high temperatures throughout the year. Except for some monks who needed to make fire, few people stopped here. Stay. If it is normal, Jian Wushuang will not stay. According to records, the crater in the Huiyang star domain was formed innately. Since it is so, then there should be innate chaos and fire in it. Just try it. Does this bronze ancient tripod only need the spirit of Otogi, or just the innate 5 elements? Jian Wushuang smiled slightly, drove the cosmic boat, and hurried toward Huiyang Starfield. He did not deliberately stop the cosmic boat, but he traveled all the way. He stopped from time to time to see the scenery in the universe, to see the starry sky, the Milky Way flowing, to watch the secrets of the sun, the moon, the stars, and the rush of the world, realizing the true meaning of the avenue. Along the way, Jian Wushuang faintly lingered, and sometimes realized that the avenue, maybe everything in the universe, is the rule of operation. It is nothing but real. However, whenever Jian Wushuang wanted to think deeply, he felt his comprehension, like a dream, like a dew, was a bubble in the sky, and he didn't catch anything. Jian Wushuang was thinking all the way, while driving towards Huiyang Starfield. It didn't take long for Huiyang Star to arrive. Standing in the universe, and looking at the Huiyang Star Field, it is a huge fireball. Before I approached, I felt a scorching breath. Jian Wushuang stopped the spacecraft and closed it. He did not wake up to practice in the town sky monument. Cold as frost, his only son walked towards the Huiyang Star domain. Huiyang Star Field is an unmanned star. When Jian Wushuang stepped into the plane of Huiyang Star Field, he felt a hotter heat wave rushing into the air. Mars was in the air everywhere, and the earth was roasted and cracked. In the cracks in the road, blue smoke was lit. Looking up, there are gushing craters everywhere in the line of sight. Occasionally, volcanic eruptions can be seen. Numerous lavas are mixed with rolling black smoke, and then slowly flow, emitting terrifying high temperatures. The entire Huiyang Star domain was extremely hot, even though Jian Wushuang was a little uncomfortable. After a slight adjustment, no two sides of the sword got used to it, spreading their divine power, and heading towards the Huiyang Star Field. I saw that under the great cover of Jian Wushuang's divine power, I knew the entire Huiyang Star domain at once. The rest of this star domain, like Jian Wushuang's, was full of dry and barren craters, and several monks were hiding in retreat in the dark, refining firepower. These monks are not high in practice, so Jian Wushuang did not bother them, and the divine power just passed over them and went elsewhere. In addition, Jian Wushuang also found that in the most central location of the Huiyang Star domain, there is a huge natural cave. This cave is extremely huge, occupying almost half of the Huiyang Star domain, and a large amount of syrup inside it flows like a boiling water, boiling continuously, and a large bubble of fist is pouring out. Branches like spider webs split from the Huiyang Star Field and lead to numerous craters. It can be said that the current geomorphological situation of the entire Huiyang Star Field is formed by this magma cave. If there is congenital Dinghua in this Yin-Yang Star domain, then it should be in this cave. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes, stepped on his feet, and shot towards the central cave of Huiyang Star domain. A moment later, a wild monster with an open mouth opened the cave and appeared in front of Jian Wushuang's eyes. Standing in front of this karst cave, a wave of substantive heat rushed, and the godless body of the sword was unbreakable. Chapter 4341. Under the huge lava cave, a ball of fireballs with large fists quietly suspended, like the king of flames, separating all other magma. A stream of hot fire separated from the fireball and formed terrible magma. The sword was unparalleled, and in the eyes the mount suddenly surged 3 inches. He could feel that the magma in this cave was formed by the firepower emitted by this big fist fireball. In other words, why the entire Huiyang Star domain has now become such a grassy situation. All because of this big fist fireball. Taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang's divine power spread out, and he carefully grabbed the ball of fire. Hey! However, he hasn't waited for the magical power of Jian Wushuang, to touch this ball of fire, and the magical power was burned clean by the hot fire. The innate air of 5 elements was born out of chaos, and the hegemony reached the extreme, which could not be controlled by anyone. The reason why Sword Wuxia can capture Ojus air in front of it is because Otsuki's air is inherently mild, not the dangerous 5-element air. And this small fire air is only the second among the 5-element air. The 5 elements of the air of armor gold are extremely dangerous. It can be so powerful, and it should be congenital. Jian Wuxia narrowed his eyes, and after thinking for a moment, he took out the bronze ancient tripod with his right hand. No need for Sword Wuxia to do anything. When this bronze ancient tripod appeared, the group of fireball and this bronze ancient tripod were like 2 magnets attracting each other. When I saw the bronze ancient tripod turning, I saw the group of fireballs. It was the lost child who found his home and flew in. Suddenly the bronze ancient tripod changed again. I saw the bronze ancient tripod on the tripod. The originally dim and obscure mysterious rune light rose. The red fire light passed through the tripod, and for a moment, the original old bronze tripod was still quite a bit dead. Suddenly, as if come alive, rotating frantically in the air, the ancient bells continued to sound. Buzzing, buzzing. The sound of Hong Zhong and Lulu was ringing like the cymbals and drums of the ancient heaven court, conveying all directions. Suddenly, the entire magma cave trembled violently. Outside the cave, many waited for the birth of Hua Yuangua, and glared at each other, sternly dominated the powerful realm, felt the shock from their feet, and suddenly changed his face. What happened? What happened? What's the situation? They stared at each other, their pupils shrinking, but never heard of the birth of Hua Yuangua. There would be such a big battle. Fortunately, the shock did not last long, and then it quieted again. Under the sun cave, the Sword Wuxia divine power is released, and the enchantment is automatically formed to seal off all the breath of the bronze ancient tripod. Otherwise, if the temper of the bronze ancient tripod comes, I am afraid that the entire yin-yang star domain will not be able to bear it. The power of the bronze ancient tripod is not fun. On the bronze ancient ding-ding body, besides the small sapling that absorbed the breath of Otsuki, a flame mark appeared next to it. The innate aura of the 5 elements has gained the second. Jian Wuxia narrowed his eyes. Divine power immersed into the chaos space of the bronze ancient tripod. And I saw that in this chaos space, besides the quietly dormant Ojus air, countless red gods fired. After I have complete control of this bronze ancient tripod, I should be able to use the 5 elements in it. The sword's eyes flickered, and then the right hand was turned over, and the bronze ancient tripod was put into the ring. After doing all this, when Jian Wuxia was about to leave, he suddenly made a flick in his mouth. What is this? I saw a vine hanging with 7 fireball fruits in a crack in the rock wall under the magma. The vine was hard to break through, perhaps because Jian Wuxia took away the innate Dinghua gas. And the 7th fruit has not yet when it forms. It withers instantly. And this vine also stopped growing completely, and the movement that originally continued to spread also stopped. Hua Yuangua? Sword Wuxia's eyebrows were raised, and the fire element fruit contained a lot of divine power, which was of great benefit to the magical monks who practiced in the fire. In the universe, it can be regarded as a relatively good Tao fruit. This thing is not very useful for Jian Wuxia. Jian Wuxia just shook his head, and shook his head no longer to shoot, and shot toward the cave of Yin-Yang. Outside the Sun Cave, the majors from Tianan Haibei who dominate the realm are waiting quietly. Counting the time, Hua Yuangua should have been born. Why isn't it out yet? Yeah, Hua Yuangua has already come out at this time. What happened this time? Those who dominated the realm frowned. One of them tentatively said, "You said, was the vibration that came out from under the cave a few days ago. Could someone go down to the cave first and take away the fire fruit?" As soon as this statement was made, someone suddenly sneered. It's impossible. The temperature in this cave has reached tens of billions of degrees. Even if it is dominated by invincible, it can't persist for several hours. It will be burned into ashes by the high-temperature magma inside. As soon as this person had finished speaking, suddenly, the mutation was suddenly raised. Guru, Guru. I saw countless lavas boiling in the cave, as if there were any monsters coming out of it. Next moment, I saw a huge vortex formed in the lava in the entire cave. Is it that Huiyuangwa is going to be born? This time Huiyuangwa was born, so many visions have formed. Is this time the number of Huiyuangwa is much larger than before? For a moment, everyone who was fighting for Huiyuangwa looked excited and excited. Countless divine powers poured out. They stared at the center of the vortex and prepared for it. Once they saw the shadow of Huiyuangwa, they thundered immediately to grab Huiyuangwa. Just when they were stunned and about to move, a scene that stunned them happened. I saw a hacker wearing black robes with loose black hair and a tall bearded beard, lifted by countless magmas, like in flames, with an indifferent expression, stepping out of the depths of magma. Behind him, the flames raged across the sky. It is the sword unparalleled that changed the appearance. Huh? How is it personal? Who is he? What about Huiyuangwa? Ultimately dominated by the second level? Immediately afterwards, many of these masters returned to God with the spirit and looked at Jian Wushuang while panicking. A white-haired white robe, a nearly invincible old man frowning, Shen Sheng said, "Boy, the old man asked you, what about Huiyuangwa? Was it taken by you?" After he finished speaking, the other master suddenly said, "Yes. Boy, hand over Huiyuangwa." "Huh, Huiyuangwa must have been taken by you. Quickly hand it over. Give up the fire fruit. It'll wait for you to die." Everyone, this man must have used some secret method, sneaked under the molten glass, and took away the fire fruit. One by one, scolded and mixed with coercion, Jian Wushuang's brow could not help but wrinkle gradually, and there was a touch of coldness in his eyes. Chapter 43-42. Huiyuangwa. I didn't take it, just under this melt. You want to take it yourself. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath, pressed his temper, and said calmly, "Did not get it? You said you didn't get it. What proof?" An ultimate master heard a cold hum, and stared at Jian Wushuang, disdainfully asked. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes, coldness appeared again in his eyes, and asked, "How do you want me to prove?" The ultimate master immediately heard a sneer and sneered, saying, "It's very simple. Take out your fortune and check for us. If there is no fire fruit, we will believe you." Jian Wushuang heard the words, his eyes flickered, his eyes turned to look at others, and he asked indifferently, "Do you mean the same?" Facing Jian Wushuang's gaze, those masters didn't have any fear. Instead they laughed back and said, "Okay, hand over Qian Kunji, let's check. Yes, if there is no fire element, we will naturally let you go, it will not be difficult. Well boy, I warn you not to play tricks, so many of us. If you don't hand over the ring, today is your day of burying your bones." The threat of smirk continued to come, and the sword replied without expression on both sides. "I explained it one last time. I said that I didn't take it or I didn't take it. If you don't believe it, you can go and check it under the melt." After that, Jian Wushuang turned around and stepped on with his right foot, and then planned to leave. Want to leave without surrendering Huiyuangwa? Not so easy. There must be a secret method to pass this flame magma. We captured him, and forced to ask these secret methods. Stop this seat. An ultimate master is Xiao Charm, wearing a yellow robe, twisting his eyebrows, grabbing his right hand, and holding out his right hand, grabbing Jian Jiancha's shoulder. This catch of the wind is full of divine power. If Jian Wushuang is really the second-level master, I'm afraid that under this catch, even if not dead, there will be no combat power. Just because I suspect that I took Huiyuangwa, it hurts the killer. Also, you asked for it. Jian Wushuang shook his head and sighed softly in his heart. Suddenly, a violent sword force rose into the sky with Jian Wushuang as the center, and it was horrifying in all directions. In this fierce sword atmosphere, the entire Huiyang star domain is like disaster coming, and it is booming instantly. Next moment, Jian Wushuang made a sword with his right hand, and turned his head towards the ultimate master who grabbed him. An open sky Jinmong cut out instantly, tearing the void to 1,000 feet. This is the ultimate master, who was originally captured by Xiang Jian Wushuang, suddenly changed his face, and his eyes were astonished like ghosts. But it's too late to make a temporary move. He watched with all his eyes. This extremely beautiful Jianmong, constantly enlarged in his pupil, and finally severely chopped on him. God body collapses. Destroyed. Sword spike. The audience instantly turned into a dead silence. Everyone was staring at Jian Wushuang, his eyes full of fear. Until a long time later, I saw a tall and burly ultimate master, stepped out. Shensheng said, "Don't be afraid. Huiyuanghua must be in this man's hands. Let's take a shot together to kill this person, and get Huiyuanghua." The voice fell. The others looked at each other, and then bit their teeth, focusing on the head. "That's right, let's do it together. No matter how strong this person is, but the second level dominates Xiuwei, it can never be our opponents. Kill." For a while, there were dozens of dominating the strong, even including the ultimate invincible, and at the same time killing swordsman. Countless magical powers blasted out and smashed towards the sword Wushuang. Jian Wushuang saw this, and his expression became extremely cold instantly. "You look for death." Jian Wushuang Mori opened his mouth. Wu Weeping Sword appeared instantly on swordless hands. Swordless man's black hair flew up. One sword was cut off, and he shattered. Countless magical powers smashed at him. Then he flew out toward the dozens of masters. "Kill the strong." A one-by-one killing has begun. The sword light is vertical and horizontal. The sword shadow is like weaving, and it is continuously cut off in the void. Countless blood descends, and the entire Yin-Yang starfield has become a field of Shura, where the sea of blood floats. The sword unparalleled sword is completely open, just like the bloodthirsty Shura. It is ruthless to slash with the sword, take away a life. For the current sword Wushuang, beating and killing the ordinary master in the same realm is even easier than crushing an ant. "No, don't kill me. Escape. I don't want Huiyuanghua, let me go." Countless people are shocked to find that they regard them as soft persimmons they can handle. At this moment, they are like killing gods, killing their lives just like killing pigs and dogs. Suddenly, wailing sounds begged one after another. The sword Wushuang looked indifferent, and the Wu weapon sword in his hand didn't leave anything. In a short span of time, the whole number was dominated by 10, and was completely killed by Jian Wushuang. In the end, there was only one tall woman who was tall and charming, curled up in a ball, her body trembling, and she looked at Jian Wushuang in fear. Just now, she looked at her invincible brother Tuoba, who was split into two by the black man in front of her. The sword had no sides and no expression, and approached her step by step. As soon as he left the Temple of Life, his mind made a decision. This time he left the Temple of Life for his escape. But once you take the shot, you need to use thunder to get rid of it. Never allow anything to reveal your identity. "No, don't come here, let me go." The glamorous woman looked at Jian Wushuang, who was approaching her step by step. "Go to death." Jian Wushuang's eyes were lowered. At this moment, he had already collected the Wu Cry Excalibur, and the blood-colored sword-ons on his fingers kept condensing. The glamorous woman looked at the sword without hands, and the horrifying sword mangling turned her mind crazy. Just as the glamorous woman was in danger of life or death, she suddenly thought something, and suddenly shouted, "Sir, are you looking for the innate Dinghuoqi? I know there are a lot of innate Dinghuoqi except here." After speaking, she stared at Jian Wushuang tightly, daring to let go of any delicate expression on Jian Wushuang's face, and straightened her drums. In her extremely hopeful eyes, "Okay." Finally, Jian Wushuo paused, looked down at the paralyzed woman sitting on the ground with paralyzed chest, and asked her calmly, "How do you know that I'm looking for innate fire?" The enchanting woman looked at Jian Wushuang, who stopped her footsteps, and breathed a sigh of relief. Chapter 43-43. The enchanting woman did not dare to sell her, and looked at Xiang Jinshuang and quickly explained, "My Excellency, I'm just making random guesses, because since you don't see the fire element fruit, you have to go under this cave magma. Then it must be under this cave magma. There is something more appealing to you. And the method you practiced is exactly sensitive to the firepower induction. Combined with the situation of the Huiyang star domain, you guessed that you are looking for congenital fire." After speaking, the charming woman didn't dare to breathe, and looked at Jian Wushuang with a stunned look. It was not until a moment later that she heard Jian Wushuang's voice faintly sound. "You have an exquisite heart." Jian Wushuang's slightly jaw head was considered to verify the speculation of this charming woman. After a pause, he asked, "You said before, you know where there is still a lot of innate fire, but seriously?" The enchanting woman heard the words, and there was a sudden ecstasy on her face. She knew that since Jian Wushuang didn't do it for the first time, she asked him, which means that her life was finally saved. Taking a deep breath, the glamorous woman congratulated. "My Excellency, I am from the Holy Land. There is a huge fire pool in our Holy Land, and there is a large amount of innate fire." Jian Wushuang heard the words and narrowed his eyes suddenly and smiled and said, "Oh, you mean, let me go to your holy place to get the breath of innate fire? At that time, I will follow you to the holy place. I'm afraid it's easy to get in, but hard to get out." The enchanting woman heard the words, and immediately knew that her speech was a little naive. She thought about her teeth and said, "Sir, I know that there is a secret passage in the Holy Land leading to the congenital Dinghuoqi. If you believe me, I can assure you that I will never leak your news. After entering the Holy Land, I will take you to the congenital Dinghua without knowing it." Jian Wushuang heard no reply, but turned to look at the distant sky. His thoughts flashed on his face. He has heard of the Holy Land. According to the historical records in the Temple of Life, the Holy Ghost Shrine was one of the top forces in the entire universe before the 10,000 Chaos Era. And it has a 10 very glorious past. But with the spirit after the ancestral spirit of the Holy Land fell, the Holy Land of the Holy Land could not stand up. In the recent 10,000 Chaos Eras, it has continued to decline, and was even forced to move away from the depths of the universe, came into the wild wilderness of the universe. The Holy Spirit Holy Land is said to be an immortal Holy Land. The ancient Taoism has already been reduced to a third-class force in the universe. It is said that the Holy Spirit Holy Land now has two supremacy. Even if there is an extreme, it is only the lowest. It's a stretch. After a moment, Jian Wushuang retracted his gaze and looked back at the charming woman again, and said lightly, "What's your name?" "Heart, sir. You can call me Heart." The enchanting woman quickly returned. Jian Wushuang nodded his head and said casually, "Let's go dominate your heart, and take me to your holy shrine." "Yes." The enchanting woman couldn't help it, and nodded quickly. Jian Wushuang gave her a slight glance and said, "Don't be too happy. After going to Lingdi Holy Land, I hope you didn't lie to me, because you can't afford to lie to me." The enchanting woman heard the words, and couldn't help but feel cold, and quickly bowed her head and said, "Dare not." Jian Wushuang said, Let this heart dominate the way," and swept away towards the Holy Spirit Holy Land. According to the Lord of the Heart, the Holy Land of Holy Spirit is not too far from here, and you can arrive in the spacecraft in more than a month. Jian Wushuang is not in a hurry. While letting Xinxin dominate the cosmic boat to lead the way, he sits down on his knees, silently refining the bronze ancient tripod. The difficulty of refining the bronze ancient tripod is unprecedented. Since he left the 5 planetary domains, the refining that he perseveres every day is only worth 1% of refining. Now he can only do it barely. Do not let the bronze ancient tripod escape. In the rest of the month, blink of an eye. Soon, a red planet appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. This planet is where the holy shrine is located. "Don't abandon your lord, the Holy Land is here," he whispered. Jian Wushuang heard his words, slowly opened his eyes, and a faint flicker passed from his eyes. In these days, Dominions is quite well behaved, like a tamed kitten, staying quietly beside Jian Wushuang, afraid to speak to disturb Jian Wushuang. "Let's go." Exhaling a stale air, Jian Wushuang stood up and left the spacecraft. This time when he came to the Holy Land, there was no fear in Jian Wushuang's heart. It doesn't matter whether this heart will dominate the Holy Land people after he reaches the Holy Land. Not to mention whether there is a supreme existence in this holy place. Even if there is a supreme existence, today the sword is unparalleled, and he would not dare to say that he is superior to the supreme. But if he is going to go, He will not be able to keep the ordinary supreme. After closing the spacecraft, Jian Wushuang and Jixin dominated the Lingyin Holy Land side by side. First, the homage to the homage of the Hajj greeted him, and then he looked at Xiang Wushuang and wondered, "Elder mind, what is this?" My heart dominated with a flat expression, and replied, "This is my old man. At my invitation, please come to see me as a guest. You don't need to take care of it. Let's go." It can be seen that the domineering heart is dominated by the lingering Holy Land. After she finished speaking, the two third-ranked masters stopped asking and let go. Entering the Lingbai Holy Land, 9 peaks of the heavenly mountains came into view. Jian Wushuang looked at the Lingbai Holy Land at will, joking casually, "Are you still the elder of the Lingbai Holy Land?" My heart dominated with a bitter smile and replied, "Without abandoning your lord, as long as the Holy Land is the top and ultimate master, you can serve as elders, and it is not worth mentioning in front of you." Jian Wushuang nodded and stopped talking. Along the way, the two met with a lot of disciples in the Holy Land. They could see that their hearts were dominated in the Holy Land of Holy Land. The disciples stopped when they saw the hearts of the Holy Land. "Congratulations. My heart is dominated by a docile gentleman in front of the sword without double sides." But in the presence of these disciples of the Holy Ghost, they immediately changed their secondary expressions. Chapter 43-44. Jian Wu's eyes flickered and he groaned slightly before answering, "Yes." Then, the master of the heart took the sword Wushuang, headed towards the Lingji Jiufeng, and walked towards the 7th peak on the left. Before the two reached the 7th peak, they saw at the foot of the mountain a big man like a tower, who was constantly pacing, from time to stop and look out. When he saw Jian Wushuang coming to dominate later, there was a stubborn smile on his face, and he strode over. "Well, worries, this time you go to Yinyang Starfield to compete for the fire fruit, are you okay?" When the master of the heart saw the towering man, his eyes flashed with disgust, and he returned with a cold face, "Elder Laozhan, if I have something, can you still see me now?" The Iron Tower man who was called Elder Laozhan suddenly heard the words, and then scratched his head. He said, "Hey, what you said?" The heart-minded expression of the domineering heart is cold. After he said, "Let us go. I'll go back to the peak first." Elder Laozhan nodded, just as he flickered aside. When he was about to let his heart dominate, his face suddenly changed slightly, shouting, "Slow!" Sun Xian dominated his footsteps for a while. Xiaomei frowned slightly and asked, "Langshan, what do you want to do?" I saw the thick smile on the elder Laozhan's face slowly converge, and looked at Xiang Jianwushuang with a bad look. His voice was somber. Hesitant, "Who is this guy?" On his face, there was still the thick and honest look of half a minute ago. Hearing the questioning, Su Xen dominated his face suddenly changed slightly, a headache, and secretly said in his heart, "I knew that there would be no good things when encountering this sister-in-law." After taking a deep breath, Zhanqin said as usual, "This is a former friend. I was specially invited to come and meet me. Is there any problem?" "A former friend? Together?" Elder Laozhan squinted his eyes, and a maze of green beans flashed in his small eyes. Then he looked up at Jian Wushuang and asked coldly, "Boy, I ask you, what is your relationship with Elder Xian? All the women living in the 7th peak are you doing?" As soon as this word came to an end, Jixin dominated and looked at Jian Wushuang, winked at Jian Wushuang, and wanted Jian Wushuang to follow her words. Jian Wushuang's expression was indifferent. When he heard the words, he looked at him and said calmly, "What's the matter with you? What does it matter to me?" The elder Laozhan laughed suddenly and said, "Boy, Elder Xinxin is a lord who the Lord is going to hand in to me. Do you say that it has anything to do with me?" Jian Wushuang heard the words and was about to speak again. "Enough. Xishan, don't say I haven't become an acquaintance with you. Even if I am an acquaintance with you, my personal affairs can't be helped by you." Having said that, she grabbed the cuff of sword unparalleled. "Don't abandon your excellency, let's go." The heart dominated the elder Laozhan, and took Wu Jianshuang, and hurried toward the 7th peak. Behind the two, the cup of heart beat the elder Laozhan who broke away, and his face suddenly became extremely iron. He stared fiercely at the back of Jian Wushuang and Xinxin, his fist rattled. Bitch, you wait. This one wants you to surrender under me sooner or later. There was a touch of ugliness on the face of Elder Laozhan. And after watching the film Engraving Time of Jian Wushuang and Xan, he snorted and left. Waiting for the Elder Laozhan to go far away, the heart-minded master who has reached the mid-mountain position finally let out a long sigh of relief and quickly released the cuff of the sword unparalleled, saying with some sincerity, "Don't abandon your excellency. It's really helpless to offend just now, and I ask you to plead guilty." Before Jian Wushuang was in Yinyang Starfield, the pictures of one person and one sword slaughtering everyone were vivid. She was afraid that Jian Wushuang would be unhappy, so she would open a killing ring in Lingdi Holy Land. If that was the case, there would be no one to block Jian Wushuang in this huge Lingdi star area. Anyway, Jian Wushuang smiled slightly and asked casually, "He is dominated by the heart. The Elder Laozhan just now is your companion?" Hearing the master, he sighed and said helplessly, "The priest still can't talk about it, but the Lord made his own claim and gave him to me. Speaking of which, my heart dominated the expression for a while." Jian Wushuang nodded and no longer asked for him, as long as he entered the congenital Dinghua after 3 days, and took away the congenital Dinghua. As for any love or hatred between the two, he did not want to understand and felt interest. The 7th peak is several million feet high. The two went up while chatting, but the speed was not fast. It took only a few minutes to reach the summit. This 7th peak is just like the Elder Laozhan said. Looking up, as long as the disciples can be seen, they are all heroic female disciples. When they see the elders who want to come cold in the weekdays, they bring men. Entering the 7th peak, the expression suddenly staggered. Who is that man? Are they good old friends with elders out there? No wonder the elders have been hesitant to accept Elder Laozhan if this man looks good. He is indeed better than the rough Elder Laozhan, but it seems to be lower. The 2nd grade dominates the repair? The Elder of Xinxin is the ultimate dominator. This man is not worthy of the Elder of Xinxin. The sound of a mosquito-like discussion sounded, and my heart dominated the flushing of the face. Noise! Don't you need to practice? Chew your tongue here? Pan Exine dominated his face, and said loudly. Suddenly, these female disciples who were sacred to the sacred place were shocked, and quickly became birds and beasts scattered. After doing all this, the master of the heart secretly glanced at Jian Wushuang. Seeing Jian Wushuang's face as usual, without any emotional fluctuations, he could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. I just don't know why. She didn't know something. And where did she come from disappointed? Turning left and right, Zhu Xinxin dominated Sword Wushuang, came to a quiet house with red walls and green tiles, and the entrance was filled with purple bamboo and said, "Don't abandon your excellency, this is my room. You are here to rest and rest. That is, I will order later and not allow others to approach and disturb. 3 days later, when I take the rotation of the congenital Dinghua, I will show you to the congenital Dinghua." Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded his head. His look did not fluctuate. "Then do not abandon your excellency. You have a good rest here. I have to go and tell the Lord Sovereign about the Yinyang Star domain." Having said that, I was afraid that Jian Wushuang would think more about it, and then quickly added, "Don't abandon your excellency. You can rest assured that I won't say anything about you. Go on." Jian Wushuang swayed, signaled nothing, and then gently opened the wooden door of this quiet house. Jian Wushuang looked at the king of Jiujia and sighed in his heart. This guy is still as strong as ever. Long time no see. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly at him. The two of them had black hair and black, cool and handsome, and their eyes were clear, and the other hit white snow, with white hair hanging down at will, as if the untouched ant shot the fairy with deep eyes. Jian Wushuang and Jiujia Wang are also the perfect level of life. They are also from the Temple of Life. They also have their own legendary epics, but this universe and this era are recognized as peerless Tianjiao. Under the shadow of the two, everything on the battlefield became overshadowed. The sword is unparalleled. You can use a body of master to push the supreme divine realm to this field with your own strength. I was not as good as you. Zhejiawang smiled lightly, and then came down from the starry sky with a negative hand. Speaking of which, this seed is now more and more looking forward to what you will look like when you break through to the supreme. At that time, this seat will definitely compare with you again. Jian Wushuang smiled when he heard the words, but did not answer, but the words turned and asked, Jiang, when did you come out of the ancient road in the sky? The king of nine calamity narrowed his eyes. A flash of narrowness flashed in his eyes, and some of them quipped rarely. Your swords and swords have all received invitations to the grand event of the nations in the ancient road of the starry sky. Will this seat not be available, then you not bad? After speaking, he turned his right hand, and a piece of white jade appeared in his hand. This white jade is similar to what Jian Wushuang got from Master Lan. But at the edge of this white jade, there is another layer of gold thread. Jian Wushuang heard the words and could not help but said, King of the Nine Robbers, why do you like it more than me? The Zhejiawang snorted and said nothing. Speaking of which, he has always been arrogant and indifferent. He never likes to talk to others, but I don't know why. Before the sword has two sides, he will always unconsciously reveal the childlike mind. Passing from the side of Jian Wushuang, the king of Jiujia looked up at Supreme Gafu, arching his hand. Master Gafu. Gafu Supreme sat high for 9 days and nodded when he heard the words. His expression had always changed little. At this moment, he was also slightly jaw-headed and smiled softly. It's good to return home safely. The following battles have nothing to do with Jian Wushuang. After only a few jaw sticks, the 5 supremes that have come together have been stabbed by the 4 chief supremes, such as Bloodwave and Giant Axe. They have never been hesitants. Once they have decided to take action, they will directly use the means of thunder and cut off the grass. After a moment, there was only one left over in the entire cold and dark universe. In this life, if my sword Wushuang does not settle these 6 forces, I will not be human. The sadness faded, and a sense of killing was struck by Jian Wushuang, pressing his arms and legs in his chest. No, don't abandon your excellency, what's wrong with you? The heart-minded master who was chatting and talking next to him saw Jian Wushuang suddenly feel extremely cold, and he was startled and asked quickly. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath, his expression returned to normal, and said lightly, It's all right. I do not dare to ask more. But I nodded and continued to walk towards the congenital Dinghuoqi with the sword Wushuang. It wasn't long before a large lake appeared in front of Jian Wu. Xinjiang said, Don't abandon your excellency. This access to the congenital Dinghuo pond is inside the Great Lake. Jian Wushuang nodded his head without thinking too much. When he stepped on his foot, he suddenly blasted towards this big lake. After a muffled sound, the surface of the lake spread ripples, and the figure of Jian Wushuang disappeared into the big lake. Dominion dominated the lake for a long time, leaving the same, and went in the other direction. What she didn't find was that, a moment after she left, a tall, burly man in black stepped out to reveal his figure from the void. Vich, this passage to the congenital Dinghuo pond. Do you think that only you know it? Even colluded with outsiders. Come to the sect to steal the congenital Dinghuo gas. I will report this to the Lord. I see how get it. And that boy, you dare to come to my holy place to steal the innate fire. You are dead. This tall and burly man with green eyes and small bones is running slowly, and his face is full of ruthlessness. It is Elder Laozhan who follows him all the way. His eyes flash fiercely, and after thinking for a moment, he planned to turn away and report the matter to the Lord of the Holy Land. Gollum. Suddenly, there was a ripple of ripples on the calm lake. Boom! Immediately afterwards, the entire lake's surface exploded, and a large hand formed by the towering divine power broke out from the lake's surface, and fought hard towards the Elder Laozhan. The Elder Laozhan's face changed suddenly. He raised his hand and waved a magical power, blasting towards this big hand. However, the magic power of Elder Laozhan banged on this big hand, and it suddenly seemed to be like an egg hitting a stone, and instantly shattered. Then, the big hand was pressed down, and the elder Laozhan was pinched, pulled back and dragged in. Among the great lakes. Gollum. The lake was calm again, and nothing seemed to have happened. The bottom of the lake. Elder Laozhan looked at Jian Wushuang with a look of horror, lips trembled. Who are you? What do you want to do? Learn smarter in your next life, don't be so curious. However, in the 3 years she has guarded the congenital Dinghua pool, the congenital Dinghua gas, consumed in the congenital Dinghua pool, is full of a number of chaos ages in the entire Lingding Holy Land. With such a large amount of consumption, once things are revealed, even if she is broken, she cannot afford such responsibilities. Just as she was stunned in her heart, there was a sudden footsteps behind her. Who? Suddenly the heart dominated. Elder mind, it is me. Lord sent me to get some innate fire. With the words, a boy with a gourd came in. My heart dominated when he saw the situation, and he could not help but feel a little loose. Fortunately, it was only the boy under the Lord. Well, give me the gourd. You can wait for me here. The heart dominates the expression, pretending to be bland. Okay, then trouble, elder heart. The boy grinned. No trouble. The heart-minded master smiled, and immediately took the gourd and inserted it into a fist-sized hole. Suddenly, a steady stream of Dinghua rushed in, filling the gourd gradually. When the boy saw that he was okay, he said arrogantly, Elder mind, I asked the Lord, this congenital Dinghuoqi, is it all right? The domineering heart holding the gourd trembled when he heard that he didn't turn his head back, and a smile on his face squeezed out. I'm here in person. What can happen? The boy nodded his head. I didn't notice the strangeness in the voice of Lord Dominion, and said casually, Elder Minshin, do you know where Elder Minshan has gone? Recently the Lord asked him something. Searched the Holy Land, and didn't see him. Oh, Shishan is gone? He frowned. Yes, Elder Laozhan has disappeared for a while, and since you came back from the mission, everyone has seen him and never seen him again. Maybe somewhere to retreat. My heart dominated my heart, and for some reason, I felt that the news of Elder Shishan had a great relationship with Jian Wushuang. Probably, the boy is not suspected of having him. After a while, the heart-minded master will give the gourd to the boy. The boy immediately thanked him and waved his hand and laughed. Elder heart-minded, then I will not be here any longer. Lord is still waiting. Dinghuoqi. Walk slowly, then I won't give it away. After a while, the boy left, and his heart sighed with relief. Immediately, she looked down at the gate of the blocked innate Dinghuoqi again, and her eyes became more and more worried. There are still 7 years to go, and it is time to re-rotate. At that time, the Dinghua gas in the congenital Dinghua pool will be greatly reduced, and it will definitely be discovered. Time flicked and 7 years passed again. Congenital Dinghua pond. The congenital Dinghua gas that had originally been in the ocean has shrunk in a large arc. In 10 years, the congenital Dinghua gas in this congenital Dinghua pool was at least 70% less. The bronze ancient tripod is suspended in the void, just like a gigantic beast, tirelessly devouring a large amount of innate Dinghua gas. Chapter 43-48. Hey! The bronze ancient tripod was suspended in the air, spinning slowly. All of a sudden, the thickness of each finger was like a serpent-like innate fire from the pool, and then poured into the bronze ancient tripod, and was swallowed and refined. For a full 10 years, the bronze ancient tripod no longer absorbs the congenital Dinghua gas, and the congenital Dinghua pool, which was still not deep at the bottom, has almost reached the bottom, and the bronze ancient tripod that devoured a large amount of congenital Dinghua gas has suddenly changed its appearance again. I saw the original simple and glorious bronze ancient Ding. At this moment is covered with flame patterns. These flame patterns flow away and spread, reflecting the dark Ding body, a glamorous red. Bursts of power burst out from the ancient bronze tripod, and the power was fascinating and shivering. If it weren't for the divine power laid down by the sword, the power would be blocked layer by layer. I'm afraid that the whole sacred place would surrender under this power. In the void not far from the bronze ancient tripod, the sword sat cross-legged, his eyes closed, his black hair hanging down, like an ancient sculpture. In the past 10 years, his refining of bronze ancient tripods has been unprecedentedly fast, and he has fully refined the bronze ancient tripods by 30%. Even he can try to control the innate Dinghua Qi in the bronze ancient tripod, and only one ray of innate Atsuki Qi. What is this concept? Ever since ancient times, no one has ever heard of someone who can control the innate 5 elements. What is innate? It is the chaos, the heavens, the highest level of energy in the universe. This innate air of 5 elements can be used to assist in spiritual practice, and it can be used to comprehend and create your own power of the 5 elements of the day after tomorrow. For example, the previous 5 elements God, and now the Ling Ling Holy Land, are used in this way. However, it is impossible to directly control the innate 5 elements, which has never been done in ancient times. Or even if there is, but in the understanding of Jian Wushuang, it has never been heard. It will probably take a few days, and the innate Dinghua gas in this innate Dinghua will be absorbed, and this bronze ancient tripod will reach a state of saturation and consummation on the innate aura of fire among the 5 elements. Jian Wushuang slowly opened his eyes, and a red mang flickered from his eyes. At the same time, he made a good decision in his heart, and after leaving the congenital Dinghua pond, he left a lot of cosmic source stones and law treasures as compensation holy shrines. His sword is unparalleled, and he never likes to take advantage of others. Since the innate Dinghua gas in this congenital Dinghua pool has been absorbed by the bronze ancient dingers, he will find a way to supplement it from other places. Over the years he has fought for the north and the south. First, he obtained the Taro treasures from the Taro ruins, and later scraped tens of thousands of years in the ancient road of Shinkong, the accumulated natural treasures, and the source stones of the universe. Even some of the top extremes are worse. Therefore, he is also confident that the treasure he left to the Holy Land of Holy Land will never be lower than this pool of congenital fire. Congenital Dinghua outside the pool. My heart dominated his face, and he paced back and forth. Today is the time when the guardian of the congenital Dinghua is on duty in the Linghu Holy Land, and the elders who have come to the duty have been waiting outside for a long time. What can I do now? Ji Xinju turned his head and glanced at the black mirror that showed the total amount of congenital Dinghua Qi, and his face was desperate for a moment. Jian Wushuang smiled angrily, flashing a cold mang in his eyes, probing hard with his right hand, and directly grasping the bronze ancient tripod that he wanted to escape. The next moment, the sword Wushuang cast the mystery of dragon's blood. Tens of thousands of times the majestic divine power poured out madly, and suppressed this bronze ancient tripod. Boom boom, the bronze ancient tripod vibrated wildly, constantly trying to break away from the swordless hands. However, Jian Wushuang's 5 distinct knuckle fingers are like pouring molten iron. No matter how the ancient bronze tripod struggled, he stood still and suppressed it. The sharp sword energy erupted from between 5 fingers, and was drawn on the bronze ancient tripod fiercely. Gradually, the struggle of bronze Guding weakened. Jian Wushuang felt the fading power in the bronze ancient tripod, and his eyes were even colder. Fortunately, he refined the bronze ancient tripod by 30%. Otherwise he would rely on his own strength, and he was afraid that he could not suppress it. Bronze ancient tripod filled with the instinctive energy of Manchi. Chapter 43-49. Now honest. Jian Wushuang gave a cold hum, and turned his right hand, and retrieved the bronze ancient tripod from the Qianquan ring. Raising his head, Jian Wushuang couldn't help but stunned, and saw that the Ling Ling Holy Land under his feet had been transformed into a fragment of a wall under the shock wave of the bronze ancient tripod. Numerous disciples of Ling Ling Holy Land were looking up, staring at him dumbfounded. Who are you? The elder Yinbin was paralyzed sitting in a fragment of the wall, staring in horror at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang said, "A little guilty conscience." Da-da-da-da. Behind the sword, a rapid footstep sounded. Immediately, I saw that under the shock wave, there were also some embarrassed enthusiasts who ran quickly. Do not abandon your excellency. My heart dominated the chest and wheezed slightly. The elder Yanbin shrank his eyes, sometimes looking at Xiang Jianwushuang, sometimes looking at the dominating heart, and finally seemed to understand something. His face changed. Okay. Don't worry, you colluded with outsiders and entered the congenital Dinghua. You are in big trouble. As soon as his voice dropped, he saw a stream of flames, dragging the tail flames, from the position of the 7 peaks of Lingzhu, and quickly burst through the air. In this flame streamer, there is a sound boom. In just a few breaths, the flame streamer appeared in front of everyone. Countless flames dissipated, revealing a majestic middle-aged man with red hair and 2 eyes of fire. Sir Lord, meet the Lord. Suddenly, many disciples in the surrounding sacred holy places, as well as the elders who were dominated by their hearts and the elders who were bound by the heart, all kneeled down on one knee. This majestic middle-aged man is the contemporary lord of the Holy Land. At this moment Ling Di, the lord's complexion was a complexion. He first glanced at Jian Wushuang coldly, and then immediately fell on the prince, who said, "Take me to see Ding Huoqi first." My heart dominated, and no one knew better than her about the situation in the congenital Ding Huoqi. The congenital Dinghua accumulated in the tens of thousands of chaos periods in the pond has no drop now. She couldn't imagine how the Lord Ling Ling would fall into this state if he saw this scene. Yes, taking a deep breath, my heart dominated the scalp. Then, the Lord of Hearts and the Lord of the Hearts walked step by step toward the congenital Dinghua pool. The congenital Dinghua pool is hidden under the ground, and the gate consisting of 10,000 years of ice and cold black iron has blocked the congenital Dinghua pool firmly. At this moment, the gate made of these 2 cold and cold black irons has been completely blown open by a bronze ancient tripod, revealing a huge cave. Numerous scorching breaths emerged from this cave. Ling Ling, with a somber face, walked towards the cave, just looking down. In an instant, the Lord of the Ghosts fell like an ice cellar, his expression completely stagnant. Innate. What about Dinghua? Next moment, Ling Ling's body shivered. In his eyes, I saw that the innate Dinghua was originally stored in the deep innate Dinghua pool. At this moment it was empty, and there was no drop of innate Dinghua gas left. What about innate fire? A heartbreaking howl emanated from the mouth of the Lord Ling Ling immediately afterwards. He saw the Lord Ling Ling turned his head suddenly, and he looked eagerly at the Lord of the Heart and Sword Master, his body shaking with anger. You it! Boom! Immediately, a momentum of invincible burst out, centered on the Lord of the Divine Puppets. Ling Ling Lord was instantly furious to the extreme. Suddenly the main body saw the situation, and suddenly covered with cold hair. A row of fine cold sweat appeared on his forehead. As soon as she was about to speak, Jian Wushuang stepped out and stood in front of her. Your mission is done. Leave the rest to me. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly at her, then turned her eyes to look at the Lord Ling Ling. Shen Chan said, Lord, that's it, you listen to me. I said you. Ling Ling's lord looked pale, and immediately stepped on it, grabbing toward the sword unparalleled. At this moment, he had fallen into rage. Or could he hear the next half-sentence? A golden sharp gun suddenly appeared in the hand of the Lord of the Gods. He stepped on it, and endless flames appeared directly on his legs. Every step he took was a flame mark in the air. Go die. At the next moment, the Lord Ling Ling stabbed forward fiercely, and instantly, the golden lance was stabbed fiercely towards the swordless pair of skulls. Countless flames spewed from the tip of the sharp gun. Jian Wushuang saw a slight frown on his brow, leaping back one step, avoiding the thorn, and at the same time he said in a deep voice, Holy Lord, calm down first. I can't calm down. Ling Ling's lord is flushed with eyes and gasping. If there are not so many disciples present, I'm afraid he can't help crying. The congenital Ding Huoqi, but the linguistic Holy Land, has a whole number of 10,000 chaos times. And now, the whole 10,000 number of chaos times, all have made Jian Wushuang a wedding dress disappearing. Who can bear this? After seeing the Lord of the Divine Lord roaring, he bullied himself again, and the flaming gold gun in his hand hit the banana like a violent storm, and like a big bead, and a bead falling on the jade plate. He shot thousands of shots instantly, stabbed sword unparalleled. Hey! Numerous gun shadows overlapped and intertwined, and each shot stabbed like a roar of a fire dragon, terrifying to the extreme. Jian Wushuang turned his head slightly, facing the dreamlike gun shadow, and appeared quite relaxed, avoiding them one by one. Until now, Jian Wushuang thought that it would be best to resolve the matter peacefully. After all, he had taken away the innermost part of the Holy Land. However, Jian Wushuang's blind concession did not make Ling Ling's lord give up, but instead he fought more and more fiercely. At the back, each shot of Ling Ling's lord had gone straight to Jian Wushuang's life gate. Endless. Jian Wu's eyes narrowed, and his face gradually grew cold. Well, now that I'm telling you well that you can't hear me, I'll convince you first, and then tell you. Talented supernatural. Puff. Instantly, a realm of power came to the audience. Under the power of this realm, the breath of the Lord of the Ghosts quickly weakened, and the breath of the sword unparalleled was skyrocketing. Gradually, the speed of Ling Ling's lord slowed down. The next moment, he stabbed a shot, and the flame gold gun in his hand was actually stretched out by Jian Wushuang and caught in one hand. Okay. Chapter 4350. Jian Wushuang's divine strength is tens of thousands of times greater than that of Master Ling Ling. At the moment, under the blessing of the primitive universe, the gap between him and Master Ling Ling has reached an incredible level. Has it been enough? Jian Wushuang spit out these 5 words. Ling Ling's face turned red, and he couldn't say a word. Now that you've played enough, can you say it well? Jian Wushuang's expression was calm, and he released his 5 fingers holding the flame gun. Suddenly, the Lord of the Puppets, who was too late to pull back, was too late to react, his body fluttered, and he almost fell from the air. The Lord of the Puppets, who clenched his flame gun again, grinned again on his face. You took my holy ground, and now you are so embarrassed to tell me. Do you want me to speak well? If you want this suzerain to speak well, then take my first move. Mystery Chi may really fire. Ling Ling shouted loudly, his hands were fierce. Suddenly, the flame gun disappeared and turned into a golden flame. As soon as this golden flame came out, it suddenly seemed to burn the sky, turning the entire sky and the earth into a sea of fire. The sword unparalleled under this sea of fire is like a flat boat in the sea of anger, as if it would be swallowed by the sea of fire at any time. Go to hell. The Lingzhu Lord smirked, and his hands were torn again. Instantly, this golden flame turned into a lifelike golden fire dragon. Each scale was shining, and the flames stepped on his feet. Go with. The Lord Lingling yelled, and pushed forward fiercely. Instantly, this golden fire dragon arrogantly screamed at the sword, biting at the sword. Stubbornness. Jian Wushuang shook his head. He wanted to use Wu Crying God to smash this fire dragon, but it seemed like he had thought of something. Instead of pulling out Wu Crying God's sword, he turned his right hand, and a bronze ancient tripod appeared out of his hands. The bronze ancient tripod was repressed by Jian Wushuang's divine power. The original mighty horse has been restored to its original shape, like an iron golem of Hei Bukikyu. Just try your might. Jian Wushuang's eyes narrowed. Grasping the bronze ancient tripod and throwing it forward, he immediately smashed towards the fire dragon in the proud world. However, in order to be afraid of this tripod, Jian Wushuang directly smashed the Lingzhu Lord into ashes and controlled the power, and only used less than 10% of the power of the bronze ancient tripod. Hey! I saw the bronze ancient tripod suddenly turned into a parabola, and hit it fiercely on the mouth of the fire dragon formed by the 7 fires. There is no obstacle at all, just like a sledgehammer hitting tofu. This mighty fire dragon was directly smashed by an inch, disintegrated, and turned into countless beach flames. This is not over yet. After the bronze ancient tripod smashed the fire dragon, a twirling spin, smashing again towards the Lingzhu Lord. What is this stuff? When Ling Ling's face went blank, he saw a black iron golem that rushed out of countless Mars, constantly enlarging in his pupil. In the end, the bronze ancient tripod drew a radiant arc to the extreme, and hit him straight on his forehead. What did I smash? This is the last thought that flashed in the mind of Lord Lingbai. Immediately, his eyes darkened and he passed out. Call out. The unconscious spirit lord fell to the ground and raised countless dust. Holy Lord! How dare you kill the Lord? Suddenly, countless disciples of the Holy Land and Elder Jiufeng, who watched the battle, yelled. It was just that they were full of embarrassment and impetuous appearance, but none of them dared to step forward, but actually faced sword unparalleled. Jian Wushuang seemed to be ignorant of them, and did not care about them, but looked at the bronze ancient tripod, and frowned. A light flashed in his eyes. This is the first time he has used this bronze ancient tripod to face the enemy. He has tried his best to control the strength of the bronze ancient tripod, and has only used 10% of the strength of the bronze ancient tripod itself. I didn't expect that even if it did, the sacred body of the Lord of the Gods would be nearly collapsed, and the spirit was directly occluded under severe blows. This is an invincible master. If he used the innate air in the bronze ancient tripod, would the power still be available? It seems that the strength of this bronze ancient tripod is far beyond my imagination. Thinking of this, Jian Wu's eyes flickered, and his thoughts were full of moments. After a moment, Jian Wushuang stretched out his right hand and grabbed it, and the majestic power poured out, and the bronze ancient tripod was captured back, and it was collected into the ring. Don't worry, you Lord is fine. Jian Wushuang lowered his head and gave a glance to everyone in the Holy Land. Seeing Jian Wushuang's eyes, they shuddered in their hearts. They just finally saw it clearly. The thing that did not slip away and smash the suzerain turned out to be a bronze ancient tripod. A tripod? This is too fierce. 1 month has passed. In this month, Jian Wushuang did not leave Lingling Holy Land, but quietly waited for Lingling Holy Lord to wake up. For Jian Wushuang, the Holy Land of Sacred Gods, although it is just a common force that can be destroyed, but he has never acted in favor of others. He said before that he would pay resources to make up for the spirit. Sacred place, then he will naturally say it. At the 7th peak of Lingling, there is a cliff overlooking the entire Lingling Holy Land. Jian Wushuang sat cross-legged on the edge of the cliff, silently comprehending the avenue. The master of my heart respected and respectfully stood behind Jian Wushuang like a servant. Since Jian Wushuang defeated Ling Master a month ago with a trick of bronze guding, she was completely convinced by Jian Wushuang. Don't abandon your lord. Lord has awakened this morning. Gong Xian dominated complimently. Jian Wushuang's back was dominated by Xian, nodded when he heard the words and stood up. Okay, let's go and see him. Yes. After a while, Jian Wushuang saw the Lingzhu Holy Lord in the sovereign hall of the Lingzhu Holy Land. The sober lord, who was awake, was still weak, although his body was still full of cracks, but his face had recovered a lot. However, he was like a frosted eggplant, with a weak expression and a low sigh, as if he was aging for decades. He looked at Jian Wushuang, who stepped into the hall step by step. His anger on his face had disappeared, and it was replaced by helplessness. Sir, you have already taken the innate fire, and I am not your opponent. What else do you want to do? My temple is small and I can't stand it. The Lord Ling said helplessly. Chapter 43:51. Sir, how do you plan to compensate? Light lingered in the Lord's eyes, he said. Seeing the sword unparalleled, could not help but be a little bit dumb. If this Lingdi Lord had this attitude, wouldn't it be nice? After a pause, Jian Wushuang groaned 1 or 2 and said, 100 million source stone of the universe, 50 top magic drugs, 50 top magic materials, plus 10 finished top-level magical treasures. Jian Wushuang said slowly. Every time he said the same compensation, the Lord of the Lingering Lord couldn't help beating. After he finished speaking, the Lord of Lingering was already staring at Venus. This. Ling's Lord swallowed, his arms trembling with excitement. 100 million source rocks of the universe is enough to buy dozens of celestial holy places in this cosmic wilderness. 50 top-level magic drugs can even cultivate many ultimate dominators. There are also 50 top-level magic materials, and 10 top-level finished products are precious. It is pitiful to see that in this Holy Spirit holy place, he is the Holy Spirit Holy Master, holding a top rule of treasure. The Holy Land of Holy Spirit has really fallen for too long, and the slightly valuable things in the Holy Land have already been cleaned up by other forces. It's enough to make me sacred to the Holy Land and double my strength, the Ling Ling Lord exclaimed secretly. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly and said, "Lingering the Lord, these resources that I have produced, even if they are not as good as that of the innate fire of Manchi, what do you think?" The Lord Ling Ling groaned slightly. Even if he didn't agree, what would happen? Okay, let's say that. The Lord Ling Ling bit his teeth heavily. Jian Wushuang nodded with satisfaction. Good. Immediately, Jian Wushuang surrendered a ring of heaven and earth to let the Lord of the Lingyi clear up in person. After half a day, Jian Wushuang quit in the eyes of everyone in Lingdi Holy Land. Lingdi Holy Land outside the gate. "Don't abandon your excellency, don't you stay long?" he said with a bit of perseverance on his master's face. For some reason, during the period of following Jian Wushuang, she slowly developed a dependency and a feeling of inexplicability and unclearness, not even her own. "Wait." Jian Wushuang smiled slightly at her. After that, Jian Wushuang arched her hand and said, "Don't give it away, let's just stop there." The voice fell, and Jian Wushuang stepped on his right foot and suddenly turned into a streamer, darting toward the starry sky in the distance, like a flat boat, sailing into the Xinghai. My heart dominated as Jian Wushuang disappeared into the skyspack, and there was a puddle on his face. If I leave today, I'm afraid it's a difference, and there is no date in this life. In the vast sea of stars, Jian Wushuang, while refining bronze ancient tripods, was driving a cosmic boat, constantly driving into the depths of the wild wilderness. In the blink of an eye, 10,000 years passed. In this 10,000 years, Jian Wushuang constantly changed his name, and changed his name, changed his appearance, and walked in the wild wilderness of the universe to collect the innate 5 elements. Under this 10,000-year collection, 4 of the innate auras of the 5 elements have been collected by him. Atsuki, Dinghua, Gungjin, and Haishui, as long as 1 more Cure Earth is collected. Qi, congenital 5 elements, you can collect perfection. And the bronze ancient tripod will also really open. It's just that the search for congenital aura is far more difficult than the other 4 congenital auras. Jian Wushuang searched for 3,000 years and never discovered the news of the congenital aura. Therefore, Jian Wushuang simply slowed down and began to realize the avenue. In this 10,000-year period, he wandered in the secular world, sometimes like a scholar who traveled far away, sometimes like a old Confucianist, sometimes like a warrior standing upright, watching 100 wars, look at the forests, see the ebb and flow, and watch the lives of others. He saw the youthful spirit, the middle-aged calmness, and the old world. Jian Wushuang gradually found out that between lives drink in 1 peck, it was decided by heaven, like reincarnation. However, the more Jian Shuangshuang looked, the more he lost. Tao, what exactly is it? Just like looking at mountains is not looking at mountains, now Jian Wushuang has fallen into a bottleneck state. But Jian Wushuang knew in his heart that although he was lost now, it was the closest time to the road of understanding. Once he can really see the avenue of heaven. He will be like a nirvana born again. He will really rise up and realize the true meaning of the avenue. Thus, a glimpse of the opportunity to become the supreme divine realm. An unknown star field, called the Qianlin realm. Sword Wushuang turned into an old Confucianist, his hair was white, he was holding a crutch, his body was slightly sloppy, and he walked step by step on the official road outside the city. Cold as frost walked beside him, and also turned into an old woman with frosty hair and wrinkled face. In this 10,000-year period, Lung Rushuang finally broke through to the ultimate domination. The two hobbled forward, just like an ordinary old man. No one would have thought that any one of the two would have the mighty power to pinch the planet. "Old lady, there is a tea stand in front of let's go to rest." Jian Wushuang bowed his head slightly, looked at the cold frost standing beside him, and smiled. "Well, old sword head." Lung Rushuang smiled back and looked at Jian Wushuang's appearance, and could not help feeling. Both of them are now the ultimate dominating realm. They will never die, and it is impossible for them to be white head to old. It's not bad to see each other's appearance now. They were not fast, just like the most ordinary old man, crutching, walking towards the tea stall ahead. The astral force value is not high, or the strongest in the entire astral area, is just the main realm of the rule. With Jian Wushuang's current strength, I am afraid he can give this astral area blown out. Entering the tea stall, the owner of the tea stall is a half-elegant coquettish lady with a long-lasting charm. There is a 10-year-old child under her knee, waving a wooden sword, babbling, saying something I don't know where to learn from. Rivers and lakes, black words. 2. What are you drinking? The owner of this tea stall was very kind, and when they saw Jian Wushuang and Lung Rushuang coming in, they didn't hate them because of their age. Instead, they respectfully pulled away the wooden chairs and helped them sit down. Just some coarse tea, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Well, wait a second. The owner of the tea stall wiped the fine sweat on her forehead with a rag on her shoulder, twisted her buttocks, and went into the house to go. The boy with the red lips and white teeth, under the knee of the owner of the tea stall, was a little tired of the sword dance. He stopped, his black and white eyes murmured, and then ran towards Jian Wushuang. Grandpa, where are you from? Chapter 4352. Jian Wushuang looked at the boy who was full of heads and brains, only to find it quite interesting. After looking at the cold frost, he joked and said, Grandpa and Grandma, come from outside the sky. Out of heaven? The boy blinked, his bright eyes blinked, and asked, Where is it outside? Tianwai. Jian Wushuang thought for a while and smiled back. It's a long way from here. At night, you look up at the sky, the farthest one you see. The stars are where my grandpa comes. The little boy heard the words, and suddenly pouted his mouth, shook his head and said, Grandpa, you bullshit. My mother told me that the stars in the sky are places where people can only go after they die. My father, who lives now on the stars. Jian Wushuang heard the words a little dumb, heard the second half of the sentence, and couldn't help but sighed slightly, reached out and rubbed the little boy's head. You are so smart. Grandpa told you a lie. The little boy heard the words, and immediately raised his head, and hummed a little proudly. Of course, my mother said, I am the smartest child in the world. Jian Wushuang heard the words, and immediately smiled, and did not speak again. And the little boy was of a natural age, and could sit down. He picked up the wooden sword and danced for a while. After a while, the dance was tired, and he ran over again panting. Asked, Grandpa, then you came from far away. You must have seen many people, you said. Is there a sword fairy in this world? Sword fairy? Jian Wushuang heard the words for a moment, then thought about it, and nodded with a smile and replied, Of course there is. Grandpa was once the sword fairy. Ah, Grandpa, are you the sword fairy? The little boy suddenly widened his eyes, and then looked up and down the sword Wushuang. He asked suspiciously, Grandpa, you deceive people. Sword fairy all fly in the sky. Jian Wushuang smiled. Isn't Grandpa saying that? He was a sword fairy before, but now he's old, he can't fly. Lung Rushuang heard the conversation next to her, and couldn't help but smile. She didn't expect that Jian Wushuang still had such moments of innocence. But she didn't say anything. As the wife of Jian Wushuang, only she knew that she was being rewarded by the entire universe. And the pressure in her heart was due to Jian Wushuang in the Temple of Life. If this allows Jian Wushuang to relax briefly, then why not? When the little boy heard Jian Wushuang's words, his big eyes were obviously full of unbelief, but he didn't know how to refute. After thinking hard for a while, he asked with his neck around his neck. Then, that Grandpa, tell me, how did you become a sword fairy before? I will believe you. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded his head, then raised his head to look at the sky, and there was a flash of nostalgic memory in the old and muddy eyes. That would have to be said a long time ago. The sunset was sloping west and time was passing. Jian Wushuang picked some interesting things to tell the little boy. He immediately heard the little boy's eyes widen. His expression was wonderful. His heart was ups and downs, full of longing. After a moment, Jian Wushuang stopped slowly and shook his head and laughed. Well, let's stop here today. It wasn't until the little boy passed a long time before he seemed to be waking up to his dreams. When he looked at Jian Wushuang again, His eyes were already full of worship. Grandpa, I'll tell you secretly, my sword practice will become a sword fairy like you in the future. He held the wooden sword in his hands tightly. His eyes were full of tenderness. As long as you persist, you will. Jian Wushuang replied with a smile. The little boy was happy for a while when he heard Jian Wushuang's affirmation. He even asked Jian Wushuang how many times, only after he got the sword's affirmation. After a moment his eyes turned, as if thinking of something, and he was curious and asked, Grandpa, what did you practice sword for? Jian Wushuang smiled and just wanted to answer, but suddenly the whole person was holding back. Myself, why did you practice sword? Jian Wushuang didn't speak, but he looked up at the sky with 1,000 thoughts in his heart. Everyone has a reason to become stronger, or in other words, call it obsession. With this obsession, go all the way forward, and dying without regret, you can open up your own way. So what is your obsession? Sword Wushuang can answer this question. At the beginning, his devotion was to be able to protect himself from bullying, to find his father Jian Nantian, and to stay in this world. So, as the other party became more and more powerful, he became so muddled that he went through every level and made himself stronger. Until now, he has become the most powerful existence in the entire universe except the Supreme. But his sword is unparalleled, but after a moment, he actively wants to become stronger? What to do? No. Taking a closer look at all his actions is actually a counterattack against pressure from all parties. Even now, he wants to realize the Tao, to collect the innate 5 elements, and to break through the supreme divine realm, just to make himself stronger, to face the dragons, to face all the crusades his power. Then if one day his sword is unparalleled, and the universe is invincible, no one in the world can press him for half a point. Wouldn't he not practice? Is it stagnant? In Jian Wu's eyes, a sense of confusion gradually appeared. His divine power began to get messy. Fu Jun, seeing as cold as frost, his face suddenly changed slightly, and he immediately swung his right hand to form an enchantment, wrapping her in sword unparalleled. She knows that Jian Wushuang is definitely enlightened, and is now in a most critical stage. What she can do is not let anyone disturb him. Within the enchantment, Jian Wushuang fell into a puzzle like never before, as if sinking into the deep sea, sinking. He was completely lost. What is your own Tao? Time flicked, 3 days passed. Under this enchantment, Jian Wushuang and Lung Rushuang seemed to disappear into the world out of thin air. The two of them sat clearly in front of the tea stall, but no one could see them and touch them. This naturally caused another surprise. The little boy was so excited that he shouted again and again, My dear, I have met a fairy. The tea stall owner also stayed a while, then quickly knelt on the ground, slammed her head 3 times, and even called the gods to come to the world. The sword in the enchantment is extremely critical. Throughout the ages, the avenue of comprehension failed, and then Daoxin completely collapsed, turning into a walking dead, a powerful humanoid machine, countless. Just when Jian Wushuang was about to collapse Daoxin, and to follow those people. Suddenly, a human face appeared in Jian Wushuang's conscious world. That's Geniki. Chapter 4353. At this moment, the sword unparalleled fell into a strange state. He was vaguely conscious, as if he was in a deep sea below 9,000 miles, and the power of destroying the heavens and the earth couldn't show the slightest. He could only sink continuously. Sink. His chest seemed to be pressed against a huge stone, which made him breathless. Tao, what exactly is it? This path is not heaven, but a path opened up by myself. The avenue is 3,000. Everyone's Tao is different. Some people have the absolute confidence of I'm invincible, and some people are the indomitable perseverance of the world is so difficult. Jian Wushuang closed his eyes, and his mind was chaotic. Just as he was lost in the middle of the road, a face suddenly appeared in the chaotic consciousness. This face is Xuani. Suddenly, it was like lighting a candle in the middle of a long night, and the dark world was full of light. Master! Jian Wushuang suddenly woke up. Instantly, Countless thoughts flowed into Jian Wushuang's mind. From knowing Xuanyi to Xuanyi's efforts to protect him, the old pictures kept playing in his mind. This face is not the mark that Xuanyi left in his mind, but the bond that he buried deep in himself. It seemed like a blink of an eye, and a blink of an eye for thousands of years. Jian Wushuang's thoughts became clearer and clearer. After Xuanyi, he saw more and more faces. In these faces, there was Jian Nantian, who had once been in order to protect him, and the Supreme of Blood, who was willing to die for him, and the cold and enthusiastic, and for the Gaver, who was willing to fight the whole universe. There are too many people who have paid a huge price in order to protect Jian Wushuang. Human faces one after another kept emerging in Jian Wushuang's mind. At this moment, Jian Wushuang understood. As if clearing the clouds and seeing the bright moon, Jian Wushuang, who was lost in the Tao, was completely awake. Boom! Suddenly, Jian Wushuang's eyes opened, and countless gods flashed in his eyes. My word is the guardian, not only to protect myself, but also everyone who has protected me. I want to guard the master. I want to guard the cold as frost, and the temple of life. Dragons have inverse scales and they die immediately. They are my inverse scales. And only by becoming stronger can I protect the person I want to protect. I can protect myself. At this moment, Jian Wushuang's eyes were clear, full of determination and unquestionable determination. Immediately, the sword unparalleled changed. First of all, his divine power became more and more pure, as if the jade had been stripped of impurities, and became bright. The biggest difference between the Supreme and the Master is the difference in the quality of the divine power. The supreme divine power unique to the Supreme is the supreme dependence of the Supreme above the sky, sitting alone in the clouds, overlooking all beings, and sword unparalleled. Although his divine power did not break into the supreme divine power, but the divine power that dominates the realm, there is a difference between the cloud and mud. Immediately afterwards, he was full of breath, and the same changed. I saw his breath of Xian to Zhang, first began to skyrocket, and then began to transform in an unknown direction. This breath makes Jian Wushuang look more transparent, purer and clearer. Let him raise his hands full of charm. If someone notices Jian Wushuang at this time, they will find that Jian Wushuang now seems to be no longer an individual, but an avatar. Staring at the sword unparalleled is like staring at the road. Time passed slowly. Jian Wushuang immersed in the realization of the Tao, and the realization of the Tao began to go 1,000 miles. Similarly, he began to move towards the Supreme. In the blink of an eye, the time of a jazzy passed. For monks, the time is nothing more than a snap. But for ordinary people, a jazzy is already half of his life, enough to turn a child into a gray-haired old man. Cosmic wilderness, an unknown star field, within the astral realm. Early morning. A shabby tea stand on the official road outside the city has not yet opened. An old widower with a thin body and white hair with a mulch in his head walked from Tianyin beside the official road, put a covered with yellow mud on his shoulders behind the door, and hid a cold basin. The well water washed his face, picked up a little yellowish white cloth next to the stove, put it on his shoulders, and began to spread a tea stand outside the house. It didn't take long for the tea stand to stand up, and didn't take much time. Because this tea stand is too simple, move a few tables and wooden chairs from the house, and place it outside the house. Then a stick is erected, and an apricot and yellow flag with the word tea is tied to the tip of the stick. The tea stand is fine. This kind of thing has been repeated for decades by old widowers. Later, he turned into the house, and began to prepare some tea and groceries, in case there was a tea visitor at the door to eat. What he didn't know was, shortly after he turned and entered the house, on the tea stand outside the room, there was a sudden twist in the void, and immediately 2 young men and women appeared out of thin air. The young man on the left, with a beautiful and stern look, his black hair spread down, but those deep eyes were exceptionally clear, like the blue sky and the sea, as pure as jade. This person, it is the sword unparalleled after comprehending the avenue. The whole time of Jazzy Jian Wushuang is immersed in the avenue of understanding. If he used to look like a magic sword with the same sheath, and was so sharp that he couldn't dare look straight at him, Now he looks like a mountain in the distance and water in the distance. In the middle of it, people can't help but feel good at first glance. In the 60 years of this man, whether it is his breath of divine power or the realm of strength, earth-shaking changes have taken place. The current sword Wuxia, although it has not yet broken through the realm of the supreme realm, is far too much stronger than the previous one, and it is only a short distance away from the supreme divine realm. And the beautiful woman next to him was naturally cold. Jian Wuxia understood the avenue for 60 years, and Lung Rushuang was next to him. He guarded him for 60 years. Now, Jian Wuxia finally clears the gate, and Lung Rushuang has just removed the enchantment. Fu Jun, you seem a little different. Cold as Frost looked at Jian Wuxia up and down, a little surprised. Is that so? Jian Wuxia raised his eyebrows, then said with a slight smile. How is it different? Lung Rushuang thought for a moment and shook his head and said, I can't say it for a while anyway. It feels like there is no fireworks in the world. The coward old man heard the words, dared not to delay in the slightest, and immediately knelt down in front of the sword without double-sided, his expression as religious as a believer. Jian Wuxia stretched out his right hand and slowly pressed it on the head of the widower's old head. Immediately, a gentle divine power emerged from the swordless hands and entered the coward's body, washing his muscles in sacrifice for him. Puff puff. A trace of sticky black stinky juice poured from the coward's old body. These are the dark illnesses left by the widower's body for many years, as well as the aging cells and so on. The fairy touches me and grows up. For today's Jian Wuxia, reversing all life and death is really simple. The old coward trembled, and he could feel that he was like an old body filled with lead, and was recovering young and reaching the peak state at a very fast speed. A miracle. This is a miracle. The widower shouted from the bottom of his heart, looking at Jian Wuxia's gaze, even more awe-like. After a moment, Jian Wuxia retracted his right hand. Looking at the widower, the whole person has undergone monstrous changes. Although he is still old, and his face is still covered with wrinkles, the spirit and energy exuding from his body are more vigorous than when ordinary people are younger. Immediately, Jian Wuxia doubled his right hand again, and a practice book appeared in his hands. Jian Wuxia said calmly, the old man is dying, staying for thousands of years, and the martyrs are old age, with great heart. Today I will send you some good fortune. You only need to enlighten you day and night, and go up and down. You can open the door of longevity, and be a sword fairy you want to be when you were young. This is also a cause and effect between you and me. Thank you for the reward. Suddenly, the old widower was bursting into tears, and continued to slap his head toward Jian Wuxia, making a muffled sound of. By the time he looked up, his eyes were empty. The pair of immortal relatives had no idea when in front of him. There was only one volume of practice exercises left in front of him. Have you gone? The widower was a little lost, then carefully put away this volume of practice. He put away the tea stand and closed the wooden door. From then on, in this unknown starfield in the wild wilderness of the universe, there was no coward old man, but a white-haired sword fairy. At the same time, a cosmic boat is fading towards the vast sea of stars inside the cosmic starry sky, and beyond the unknown star field. In a blink of an eye, the cosmic boat disappeared into this star field. Fu Jun, where are we going now? Cold as Frost asked in the spacecraft. Jian Wuxia groaned slightly, and then replied, if I remember well, it will not be long before the Universe Festival begins. Chapter 4355 Comprehending the Great Tao. Jian Wuxia looked at the strong-looking boy, and found him quite interesting. After exchanging a look with Lung Rushuang, he jokingly replied, Grandpa, Grandma, you came from beyond the heavens. Beyond the heavens? The boy was stunned. He blinked his bright eyes and asked, where is beyond the heavens? Oh, beyond the heavens. Jian Wuxia thought for a while, and replied with a smile, it's a place that's very, very far from here. When night comes, you can look up at the sky and see the furthest star from you. That's where I came from. The boy pouted and shook his head. Grandfather, you're talking nonsense. Mother told me that the stars in the sky are places that people can only go to after they die. My father is living on the star now. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang was dumbfounded. But when he heard the second half of the sentence, he could not help but sigh softly. He reached out his hand and rubbed the little boy's head. You're so smart, you even saw through Grandpa's lie. When the little boy heard this, he immediately raised his head and snorted with pride. Of course. Mother said that I'm the smartest child in the world. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang smiled and didn't say anything. As for the little boy, he was at the age where he was naturally playful. So how could he sit down? He picked up the wooden sword and danced for a while. After a while, he was tired of dancing and ran over again. He asked while panting, Grandpa, you must have seen a lot of people since you came from far away. Do you think there are sword immortals in this world? Sword immortal? Jian Wushuang was stunned. He thought for a moment, then nodded and replied with a smile. Of course there is. Grandfather was once a sword immortal. Ah, Grandpa, you're a sword immortal? The little boy's eyes suddenly widened. He sized up Jian Wushuang and asked with suspicion, Grandpa, you're lying. Sword immortals all fly in the sky. Jian Wushuang laughed. Grandpa, didn't you say that I used to be a sword immortal? But now I'm old and can't fly anymore. Hearing this, Lung Rushuang burst into laughter. She had never thought that Jian Wushuang could be so innocent. However, she didn't say anything. As Jian Wushuang's wife, she was the only one who knew how much pressure Jian Wushuang, who had a bounty on his head, and the Divine Life Palace, had suffered a great calamity because of her, was under. If this could allow Jian Wushuang to relax for a short while, why not? Hearing Jian Wushuang's words, the little boy's big eyes were filled with disbelief, but he didn't know how to refute it. After thinking for a while, he straightened his neck and asked, Then, Grandpa, tell me how you became a sword immortal in the past and I'll believe you. All right. Jian Wushuang nodded, and then looked up at the sky. His old and turbid eyes flashed with a touch of nostalgia. Then I'll have to start from a long, long time ago. As the sun set in the west, time gradually passed. Jian Wushuang picked out some interesting things to tell the little boy. Suddenly, the little boy's eyes widened, and his expression was wonderful. His heart was full of ups and downs, and he was full of longing. After a while, Jian Wushuang slowly stopped talking. He shook his head and smiled. All right, let's stop here for today. The little boy only came back to his senses after a long time, as if he had just woken up from a dream. When he looked at Jian Wushuang again, his eyes were full of admiration. Grandpa, let me tell you a secret. I'm practicing the sword, so that I can become a sword immortal like you in the future. He tightly held the wooden sword in his hand, his eyes full of young hesitation. As long as I persevere, I will. Jian Wushuang replied with a smile. The little boy was overjoyed when he heard Jian Wushuang's affirmation. He asked Jian Wushuang several times, and only laughed foolishly when he got Jian Wushuang's affirmation. After a while, he rolled his eyes as if he had thought of something. He then asked curiously, Grandpa, why did you practice the sword then? Me. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang smiled. Just as he was about to answer, he suddenly froze. Why did he practice the sword in the first place? Jian Wushuang didn't say anything. He just looked up at the sky in a daze, and a myriad of thoughts surged in his heart. Everyone had their own reasons to become stronger. Or rather, it was called obsession. With this obsession, he would be able to forge his own Tao without regret even if he died 10,000 times. Then what was his obsession? Jian Wushuang could answer this question. In the beginning, his obsession was to protect himself, to not be bullied, to find his father, Jian Nantian, and to survive in this world. Thus, as the other party became stronger and stronger, he muddle-headed and passed through one obstacle after another, making himself stronger and stronger. Now, he had become the most powerful existence in the entire universe, except for the Supremes. But, he, Jian Wushuang, had never taken the initiative to become stronger. What should he do? No. Looking closely at all of his actions, it was actually just a counterattack to the pressure from all sides. Even now, he wanted to comprehend the Tao, collect the innate 5 elements qi, and break through to the supreme divine realm. All of this was just to make himself stronger, so that he could face the dragon clan and all the forces that wanted to suppress him. Then if one day he, Jian Wushuang, became invincible in the universe and no one in the world could suppress him, would he stop cultivating? Was it going to stagnate? Jian Wushuang's eyes gradually revealed a hint of confusion. The divine power in his body started to become chaotic. My husband. Seeing this, Lung Rushwang's expression changed slightly. She quickly waved her right hand and formed a ward, which wrapped her in Jian Wushuang. She knew that Jian Wushuang must have understood something, and was now at the most critical stage. All she could do was to not let anyone disturb him. Inside the wizardry barrier, Jian Wushuang fell into an unprecedented state of confusion. It was as if he had fallen into the deep sea, and was constantly sinking. He was completely lost. What was his Tao? Time flew by and 3 days passed. In the wizardry barrier, Jian Wushuang and Lung Rushwang seemed to have disappeared from the world. They were sitting in front of the tea stall, but no one could see or touch them. This naturally caused another wave of surprise. The little boy was extremely excited and repeatedly exclaimed, "Mother, I've met an immortal." The lady boss was also stunned. Then, she quickly knelt on the ground and kowtowed 3 times, calling for the arrival of the immortals. Jian Wushuang, who was in the ward, was in an extremely critical situation. Chapter 4356. It's a long story. I don't abandon your excellency. The wind instrument star field was different that day. I thought it would be harder to see it in my life. I can't even meet you again. The young men and women looked at each other and laughed. Jian Wushuang heard a slight jaw and nodded. We are indeed quite destined. The two were from a pair of ancestors of the Tianjin sect in this wild wasteland. Jian Wushuang met when collecting the gas of Haishui 5,000 years ago. At that time, a war broke out in the star domain where the gas of Haishui was located. Both of them, it is dominated by the 5th level. Naturally, it is not safe and is being hunted down. The person who chased them was the one who occupied the air of Haishui. Jian Wushuang slain the man, and took away the air of Haishui. It was also a misery and a blunder. Came down. Since then, the two have been grateful for Jian Wushuang, and embarked on a journey. And Jian Wushuang saw that the two were innocent and inexhaustible. After several exchanges, the 3 were familiar. Only later, the 2 returned to Tianjin Zone, and Jian Wushuang continued to collect other innate auras of 5 elements, and left it alone. Unexpectedly, 3,000 years later, the 3 met in this wild star field. Don't abandon your excellency. This time we are following the elders of Zongmen, and come here to gain insights. The young man who called the Master of Stardust laughed. Don't abandon your excellency. Are you here for this land? In addition, the young woman who was called to be dominated by Star Rhyme asked with a playful blink. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly after hearing the words and replied, Well, what about your elders? The Master of Stardust pointed his finger at the central high platform. An old man in the soap robe sitting next to the owner of the Feng family said, My parents and the old family owner are old, and are talking about it. Jian Wushuang nodded his head, signaled to know. The Stardust dominated for a moment or two, and said, Don't abandon your lord, crouching tigers and dragons in this starry sky. If you want to take the soil, it is better to be careful. I heard that this time the starry sky, the 3 major families in the region, are all interested in this soil, especially the first day of the Qing family's pride, and Qingmu is bound to get this soil. Qingmu. Jian Wushuang raised an eyebrow. The Stardust dominated the sound, and his expression gradually became dignified. Yes, that Qingmu is the first genius of this Qing family. No, it should be said that this universe is a wild wasteland, the first genius under thousands of miles of stars. He is extremely talented, but after thousands of years of cultivation, he is already the most powerful among the invincible masters, and bears great fortune. When he was practicing at a young age, he had an adventure, and 3 Tao fruit came into the world and fell beside him. Later, when he traveled to the universe, he was recognized by the Demon Phoenix family, and obtained the blood of Demon Phoenix. Later, when he asked to dominate the realm, He actually caused a vision of the heavens and the earth, and he was recognized by the cosmic extreme treasure god Magic Halbert. Now he has been perennially instructed by his ancestor at home and the Qing family, and his strength has no idea how terrible it is. His reputation is known to everyone in the wild wasteland of the universe. Although he has not yet achieved the supreme, almost everyone is convinced that in the 10 Chaos Ages, Qing Mu will become the supreme. Even now, in the wild wilderness of the universe, there are already many people who call him Qing Xiaozun. Qing Mu Xiaozun? Jian Wushuang's brow lifted, and his eyes filled with interest. Listening to the ruler of Stardust, this genius named Young Herd of Young Herdsmanship is indeed very powerful. Whether it is his own talent or the opportunity of creation, he is considered to be the best in this universe. Million years of achievement in the ultimate dominance in the universe, in addition to his sword unparalleled, is definitely the most top grade. If it is placed in the depths of the universe, it is enough to compete with the sons of the immortal Holy Land and the sons of the great divine kingdoms. The Master of Stardust continued to say in a deep voice, "It is rumored that Qing Mu Xiaozun's current strength, even if placed in Tianjiao in the herd of the starry sky, is enough to rival the existence of a giant." Is that so? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows, then smiled slightly, and said, "So Qing Mu Xiaozun, why don't you participate in Xingkong Ancient Road?" It seemed that I heard that Jian Wu didn't care too much in the bilingual language, and the Stardust Master had not spoken yet, so he saw the Star Duke Dozu saying, "Don't abandon your lord. Don't underestimate Qing Mu Xiaozun." He didn't go to the Xingkong Ancient Road, but when the Xingkong Ancient Road opened, he happened to be retreating. After he went out, the Xingkong Ancient Road has passed halfway through. The Overlord Sword Wushuang of the Ancient Starry Sky has also left. Qing Mu Xiaozun has ambitious ambitions. His goal is to challenge the 10,000-year-old sword in the universe. The sword is supreme, and he has been named the first genius swordsman. When it comes to Qing Mu Supreme, the Star Dominion is different from the solemn Stardust Dominion. Her face is full of excitement and worship, and I can't wait to talk to Jian Wushuang carefully about the legendary deeds of Qing Mu. It can be seen that she has a lot of respect for that young husband. Stardust dominated the sight, and he couldn't help but stare at the Star Domain Dominion, then looked at Jian Wushuang and said, "Don't abandon your lord. Don't give Yuner general insight." Anyway, Jian Wushuang waved his hand, only feeling a little dumb inside. It turns out that, unknowingly, has become the object of challenge for many geniuses in the universe. The three were still chatting suddenly. There was a commotion in the crowd, and I wonder who shouted, "Here are the three big families." All of a sudden, everyone in the audience looked up and looked at the sky. I saw above the sky, first a row of golden carriages came out of the air. This golden carriage is golden and shining. The horse-drawn carriage has double wings on its horseback. A single horn is borne on its forehead, and the golden auspicious cloud is trampled under its feet. It is the golden horn swallowing beast in the universe. In front of the wagon, a golden flag was inserted, and a huge Lai word was written. This is the relief of the three major families. Immediately after the golden carriage passed through the air, we saw a huge boat with the flag north inserted across the sky. This giant boat is extremely towering, like a mountain falling down, making a huge roar. Before this giant boat, two naked giants, backed by chains, dragged the towering giant boat forward. North of the three big families, on Nansha Island, someone was exclaimed, but more people remained silent, focusing their eyes on the tall figure who came alone. He was just one person, walking against the light. It was hard to see the looks, and he did not use any power, but he overwhelmed the audience. In front of this person, whether it is the golden carriage coming out of the air, or the towering giant boat that swept across the void, it is completely discolored. He seemed to be the son of the heavenly selection by nature. When Fong played, he didn't need any words to be the focus of attention. This person is the first day of the universe's wild wasteland. Chapter 4357, Qing Mu Xiaozun. The strongest genius recognized in the wild wasteland of the universe, whether it is talent or chance, is the extreme of the universe, and has not yet achieved the supreme deity, but he has been treated the same as the supreme. I saw him coming out of the sky, and the sun and the earth were stepped on by his feet, as if lifted by the sky from the sky, is the darling of the world. Qingmu Xiaozun. All of a sudden, everyone on Nansha Island shouted. Their expressions of enthusiasm and worship were like devout believers. The Star Master is also in this rank. At this moment, she is not like a master who is high above her, but more like a secular little girl who sees a flirtatious boy. Her expression is excited to the extreme, and she shakes the arms of Stardust, frantically calling. Stardust, look at it fast. This is Qingmu Xiaozun. Stardust dominated the expression of helplessness and glanced at Qingmu Xiaozun, and there was a gloom in his eyes. Both are the ultimate level, but the gap is too big. Is he young, Qingmu? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and looked up. I saw Qingmu Xiaozun's handsome face, and the of abundance was like a jade. He looked down and looked down. His expression was indifferent, and he could not see any emotions. Immediately afterwards, I saw the owner of the Feng family sitting on the high platform stepping. His body shot out, and he greeted far away. Qingmu Xiaozun's siblings, why are you even shocked? The Wen family owner bent over and said with a smile, if you want this piece of land, as long as you send someone to speak up, I will surely take the initiative to send it to you. Or can I let you deign to come and run in person? Qingmu Xiaozun heard a slight glance at him, and said, since you have set the rules, and let everyone take this land by their own abilities, this is the rule of the block. As soon as this remark came to an end, the owner of the Wind family immediately slapped his and shouted, it is worthy of Qingmu Xiaozun Gao Yi. On Nansha Island, everyone else nodded. Qingmu Xiaozun Gao Yi. Qingmu Xiaozun Gao Yi. For a moment, the words of praise to Qingmu Xiaozun were like terrifying sounds, boiling against the sky and heading for the sky. Jian Wushuang was in the midst of the crowd, and he didn't notice it. He touched his nose and couldn't help but feel a little funny. This Qingmu Xiaozun's strength is unknown for the time being. But if he talks about the faction, I am afraid that he is inferior to him. After a while, Qingmu Xiaozun sat down on the main seat with an expression of pride. The young talents of the other two families looked at Qingmu Xiaozun, who was holding the moon by the stars, and his looks were a little complicated. Little Qingmu. After a moment of hesitation, the people of these two families were saluting towards Qingmu Xiaozun. People have to learn to judge the situation. Qingjia is not weaker than their two supreme families, and Qingmu Xiaozun is likely to become the second largest supreme of Qingjia. At that time, the status of Qingjia will be far away. Beyond these two families, become the wild wilderness of the universe, and say the best monarch. Okay. Qingmu Xiaozun nodded saltily. For him, the young talents of these two families are also good, or the other heroes who are present, even the wild wilderness of the universe, and the entire universe of billions of stars and stars. As long as they have not achieved the supreme, they will not be regarded by him. He considered himself to be eligible to be his opponent. There was only one person, that is the first day of his life, and the sword was the best sword. He is confident. Today, he has an eye on the entire universe, and can fight him a little bit. Only swords are unparalleled. Even he has great confidence to be able to defeat Jian Wushuang within 100 strokes. This is his pride. Winds start from the clouds. He faintly looked at the owner of the Feng family next to him and said, yes. The owner of Fengjia quickly nodded, cleared his throat, got up and stood up, looking at the crowd under the platform. Shen Sheng said, Shi soil is the treasure of the universe. It can spawn thousands of miles of star fields and endlessly. These treasures should be the strong ones. Therefore, our family is willing to donate the soil, so that the strongest in the audience can get the soil. And if you want to prove your strength, the rules to get Xiang are also simple. You just need to defeat all the opponents in the audience, and let everyone serve you. Then you are the owner of Xiang. I said so, do you understand? The words fell, and everyone nodded. It is such a truth that treasures reside in strong ones. Immediately, they looked at Qingmu Xiaozuan one after another, their eyes flashing for a while. If the person who came this time is not Qingmu Xiaozuan, they still have the heart to compete for one or two. But when Qingmu Xiaozuan comes, no one has the confidence to defeat Qingmu Xiaozuan. I am afraid I will belong to Qingmu Xiaozuan. Yes, Qingmu Xiaozuan is here. Who dares to grab something from him? Shi Yang will definitely belong to Qingmu Xiaozuan. Everyone talked. Sure enough, as they said, after seeing the voice fall, Qingmu Supreme stood up, looked at the audience indifferently and said, "This piece of land, this seat is wanted. Who wants to fight against this seat, is it?" He didn't have a loud voice, but was full of power. No one answered. Seeing this, Qingmu Xiaozuan became more and more proud in her eyes at the same time. A loneliness surged in her heart. Is the world so big that no one can be his opponent? It was not long before I saw an old man stepping out of the crowd, his face and airways. Qingmu Xiaozuan. When he was far away in Jiangyan Starfield, he had always heard that Xiaozuan had great strength. He met each other and wanted to come up and learn. After the old man walked out, someone suddenly exclaimed in the crowd, "Yuan Feng of Jiangyan Star Domain rules." Yuan Feng's is a long-established invincible master, one of the top powerhouses in the wilderness of the universe. Although Qingmu Xiaozuan is strong, but he has only practiced for tens of millions of years, and Yuan Feng's domination, only in the realm of invincible domination, has impregnated 10 chaotic eras. When it comes to the background, Qingmu Xiaozuan must be far not as good as Yuan Feng. This battle is exciting. Qingmu Xiaozuan raised his eyebrows when he heard the words, looked up and down the Yuan Feng dominated, and said indifferently, 3 tricks. As long as you can take me, I will lose. That Yuan Feng dominated his face did not change. He still laughed, but his heart made a cry. Xiaozuan, the old man admits that you are strong, but you can beat me with 3 tricks, isn't it too big? However, she had a sigh of relief inexplicably in her heart, and wished that Qingmu Xiaozuan could teach Jian Wushuang by hand, and let Jian Wushou treat Qingmu Xiaozuan, and dare not to despise it in the slightest. On the Nansha Island, Qingmu Xiaozuan's eyes awaited, his expression indifferent and proud. Does anyone else have a shot? He asked lightly. There was no response from the audience. It took a long time before a great man dominated by the invincible. However, this man is only a little stronger than Na Yuanfeng, and he was defeated by Qingmu Xiaozuan under 2 moves. Time passed slowly. During this period, there were still some invincible masters coming out from the crowd, including the Tianjiao and Su Lao of the other 2 big families, asking for advice from Shaoqin Qingmu. It turned out that there were no surprises. These invincible masters, who had long been known in the wild wasteland of the universe, were less than 3 moves. They were defeated in the hands of Qingmu Xiaozuan, and they became the footsteps of Qingmu Xiaozuan's stone, highlighting Qingmu Xiaozuan becoming more powerful and invincible. After an hour, no one dared to challenge Qingmu Xiaozuan. Are there no one? That piece of land is here. Qingmu Xiaozuan's indifferent expression flashed a scorn, and then he turned and walked towards the high platform to receive the interest. A herd of native chicken shit. Qingmu Xiaozuan shook his head. Seeing this, the owner of the Feng family quickly drew a large piece of soil from Qianquan Ring. Qingmu Xiaozuan, who is your opponent in the realm of domination? He laughed first, and then pushed forward saying, Xiaozuan, this is Shiliang. Qingmu Xiaozuan nodded. A flash of satisfaction flashed in his eyes, and stretched out his hands toward the soil crowd. Everyone looked at this scene. Flashes of envy. Qingmu Xiaozuan was already strong. Now with this piece of land, I am afraid that he will gain even more strength. At this moment, no one noticed that after the soil was taken out, a young man in a black robe with a white antelope mask flashed in his eyes. In this area, there is indeed a congenital aura of soil. Jian Wushuang felt the change from the bronze ancient tripod in Qianquan Ring, and there was an irresistible joy in his eyes. He searched for tens of thousands of years, and the only lack of the aura of the 3 elements of the innate air of 5 elements, and finally found it. As long as he gets the chi of the sea soil, he can really open the bronze ancient tripod. The next moment, Jian Wushuang took a deep breath, stepped out of the crowd and said lightly, "Slow." The words fell, and everyone snorted suddenly, turning to look at Jian Wushuang. Okay. Including Qing Mu Xiaozuan on the high platform, holding his right hand to the soil in stagnation. He also turned his head and slowly looked at Jian Wushuang. "Do you want to challenge this seat?" He glanced up and down Jian Wushuang, frowned and said in a cold tone. Chapter 4359. At this moment everyone was confused and said, "Who is this person? Challenging Qingmu Xiaozuan. Does he want to die?" The ones who challenged Xiaozuan before were all invincible masters, who have long been known in the wild starfields of the universe. This person is not well known, and is worthy to challenge Qingmu Xiaozuan? Qingmu Xiaozun. How can any cat or dog challenge? Everyone present shook their heads. Even the Stardust ruler was anxious and shouted, "Do not abandon your excellency. What are you doing?" At that time, although Jian Wushuang rescued them and killed the person who pursued them, but that person was not the top ultimate master. Could it be compared with Qingmu Supreme? As soon as he wanted to go forward to pull Sword Wushuang, he saw that Star Yin stopped him and shook his head. "Stardust, since you do not abandon your lord and do not accept Qingmu Xiaozun, then let him go. Why bother with us?" When saying this, Star Rhythm dominated the eyes, with a touch of irony. Stardust dominated and looked back at her, his expression suddenly stunned. Is this the kind, playful childlike wife he knows? Star Rhyme, what nonsense are you talking about? What is nosy? Don't forget, you will never give up on your excellency, but our benefactor. Taking a deep breath, the Lord of Stardust looked at the Lord of Star Rhyme, as if looking at a stranger. "Xing Yin, I think you've been stunned by that Qingmu Xiaozuan. Xing Yin's master was a little dissatisfied when he heard the words. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but when he saw the expression of Stardust's cold gradually, he couldn't help humming his eyes. So many people have challenged Qingmu Xiaozun, and Qingmu Xiaozun did not take them. It will be fine if you do not abandon your excellency, rest assured." The Lord of Stardust heard the words, and a look of hesitation flashed on his face. When he saw Qingmu Xiaozuan walking down the platform with the magical halberd, he knew he was unable to stop the battle, and he sighed and said, "I hope so." On the platform, Qingmu Xiaozong looked down at Jian Wushuang, and said with no expression, "This seat, no matter who you are or where you come from, you listen well. As usual, you take the 3 strokes of this seat. This I think you win." Jian Wushuang heard a slight glance at him and said, "Hurry up, I'll hurry." "In a hurry." Qingmu Xiaozuan heard the words, and suddenly felt extremely anti-smiling. In this man's eyes, he took the first day of his magnificent and wild wasteland to be proud. "What happened? I see you rushing to death." Qingmu Xiaozuan snorted coldly, holding both halberds, fiercely chopped towards the sword Wushuang. This halberd is the shot of Qingmu Xiaozun with anger, which is even more fierce than the previous might, and directly crushes the void, and the magic phoenix is dancing wildly. However, get ready for the second move. Jian Wushuang raised his eyelids slightly, turned his divine power slightly, and popped a finger gently. Suddenly, the divine power of the avenue horrified, covered on the fingertips of the sword, and flew towards the magical halberd that came from the fury. "Hey!" As if crushing the mountains and the sea with a single finger, the fierce and mighty divine halberd slashed at the sword Wushuang, and gave a scream of screaming and flew out. Qingmu Xiaozuan was shocked, and he took 3 steps back and forth to run the whole body of the divine power, before he pressed down the huge power uploaded by the magic demon. Suddenly, Qingmu Xiaozun's expression was startled, and he stared at Jian Wushuang tightly for a moment before he said coldly, "No wonder you dare to be so ambitious. It turned out that you have some ability to rely on yourself." After a pause, he continued with a sneer. "However, this halberd just used 30% of his strength just now." 30%? Jian Wushuang shook his head. If this Qingmu Xiaozuan knew that he had not used even 1% of his power, how would he feel? Although he is still the master of the realm, whether it is the divine power transformed into the power of the avenue, or the supernatural power, it is far from being comparable to the master. Regardless of any invincible master, in the swordless hands, they are just the ants that run to death. Even if it was the 9 kings of the calamity that were recognized as the first in the realm of domination, or the prison dragon that fell from the supreme divine realm, before the sword has no double sides, it cannot take 3 moves, let alone this young herd. The master's divine power and his avenue divine power are not a great at all. Second move, Qingmu Xiaozun sighed coldly. No longer suppressing his strength, invincible Master Xiao broke out for the most. Suddenly, the violent wind rose sharply, roaring and roaring, forming a vortex storm. Standing at the center of the vortex storm, the young priest, like Huang Lingshi, is not visible. Mystery punishment. Boom. In an instant, the platinum-colored magic demon halberd in his hand suddenly changed. Fine vein-like fine lines covered the halberd. Qingmu Xiaozuan stabbed into the sky fiercely. He actually guided the strength of the heavens and earth directly and descended countless shinlei. In the end, these gods' thunder fell on the magical halberds one after another, forming a horror thunderbolt similar to Taigua Thunder Dragon. When everyone around him saw this, they were shocked. It turns out that this is the true strength of Qingmu Xiaozun. The true strength of Qingmu Xiaozun is so horrible. It seems that Qingmu Xiaozuan has moved a real fire. This mask is dead. Stardust dominated when he saw this. His face was suddenly anxious, and he shouted continuously to let the sword unparalleled. And that star rhyme dominated. His expression flashed under the instant worry about Jian Wushuang, which turned into a deeper worship of Qingmu Xiaozun. My husband, it would be great if they were such strong men. She envy secretly. Go to hell. Qingmu Xiaozuan sneered. Boom. Suddenly, this horrible of thunder, carrying the power of destroying the world, blasted towards the sword Wushuang. Get ready for the third move. However, Jian Wushuang's expression was still light, and he was just throwing his sleeves in the face of the horrifying thunder that made everyone scream. In this sleeve, the cloud and wind are extremely light, and no power can be seen, but it is vaguely felt, as if the sleeve throws out mountains, water, all things in nature. Alas, this horror thunder hits the swordless, sleeveless robe, just like a stone dripping on the water surface, ripples. Next moment, this godly thunder was even pumped away, and one turned at a faster speed, with more terrifying power, and hit Qingmu Xiaozuan. How can it be? Qingmu Xiaozun's complexion changed instantly, and he wanted to resist it. However, this god of thunder directly destroyed the dead, and hit Qingmu Xiaozun's chest. Ha! The horrible might broke out, and a huge turbid mushroom cloud rose over Nansha Island. Cough cough. In the huge mushroom cloud, the uncomfortable coughing sound of Qingmu Xiaozun was sounded. Immediately, everyone saw the original Feng Shen Yulang, such as the Ling Chun, and the glorious Qingmu Xiaozun. But at this moment, he was like a falling from earth. His black hair was blown up all over. His clothes were fragmented. His black chest was exposed, and his wolf was trembling to the extreme. Suddenly, the whole audience froze and fell into petrification. Chapter 4360. Damn! The next moment, Qingmu Supreme swept up from the ground and looked at Jian Wushuang hardly. His face was extremely blue. From an early age, he is the proud of heaven, the beloved of heaven and earth, and his practice is smooth and smooth. Born with the fruit and fruit, if you go out casually, you will get the blood of the magic phoenix. Even if you break through a realm, you can make the ultimate arrogant to recognize the Lord. No matter where he went, he was only praised and admired by him. Because of all kinds of encounters, he became extremely arrogant. He was so arrogant that he believed that the entire universe, as long as it was below the supreme, no one was his opponent. Even the rumored sword was cut to the extreme, and he was named the sword's first talent in the world, but only slightly into his eyes. Today, however, he was easily defeated by a masked man who didn't know where to come from. This pride and arrogance that he has developed for tens of millions of years, was trampled under his feet, crushed and trampled down. This is an embarrassment never before. A fierce anger raged on his chest, and he wanted to burn him. Next moment, damn it. You it. Qingmu Shaozuan twisted the blood vessels on his forehead and growled. Magic Phoenix changes. Boom. Suddenly, his blood was boiling all over his body, and a mysterious rune emerged from the body. Hey! Immediately afterwards, a pair of flame-shaped wings spread out on his back, 10 feet wide. At his neck, 8 more heads were twisted to give birth. The Magic Phoenix is a branch of the Phoenix family. It has 9 heads and is extremely powerful. The awakening of the bloodline is still continuing, and more horrible changes are constantly being made on Qingmu Shaozuan. Suddenly, are you performing acrobatics? Jian Wushuang glanced at him lightly, stretched out his right hand in the direction of him, and spread his 5 fingers slowly. If this Qingmu Shaozuan is really the demon phoenix, his sword unparalleled is also interested in seeing 1 or 2, but the result is just a half-human and half-phoenix monster. And he naturally does not want to waste time. He had slaughtered the real dragons, not to mention this defective product. Come on! Jian Wushuang's 5 fingers slammed into the void. Suddenly, she was immersed in the transformation, and the young man of Qingmu, who had various gorgeous changes in the divine body, seemed to be holding his throat by the invisible big hand. What is this? Qingmu Shaozuan struggled. He felt that grasping his divine power seemed to be in harmony with heaven and earth. The power of his demon phoenix, after his awakening, could not remove the power of this avenue at all. The next moment, he saw that Jian Wushuang grabbed his neck and lifted it, as if he was holding a chick. You let go of me. Qingmu Shaozuan's sword Wushuang held his right hand in the void, his wings fluttered on his back, and his hands and feet kicked wildly, angrily to the extreme. He still has no magic power at the bottom of the box. He has not really awakened the state of the Magic Phoenix, and as a result he was caught in the hands of Jian Wushuang, and he was unwilling to the extreme. His Excellency, 3 moves have passed, you lost. Jian Wushuang let go of his hand, shook his head and said lightly. Having said that, Jian Wushuang no longer cares about him, and walks towards the soil on the high platform. For today's Jian Wushuang, only the Supreme can he really awaken his spirit. As for these masters, he has no interest in slaughter. This Qingmu Shaozuan arrogant and powerful, but in his opinion, it is just a frog at the bottom of the well that has never been to the depths of the universe. Unconsciously, the audience was extremely dead. Everyone stared at Jian Wushuang blankly. All eyes were shocked to fall down, and their mouths could be opened to put an egg. Qingmu Shao lost. The invincible barren land is invincible, and has the title of Young Respect. Qingmu Young Respect, who was given the son of the choice, is so defeated. They stared at Jian Wushuang stunned. From beginning to end, Jian Wushuang was just a finger, a sleeve and a grab. Anyone could see it. Jian Wushuang was obviously easy to deal with, and was quite capable. The star rhyme dominated his expression with a dull expression. He couldn't seem to believe the fact, and said chaotically in his mouth, impossible, absolutely impossible. Qingmu Shaozuan, however, is invincible and cannot be defeated. Silhouette me. Jian Wushuang swept to the high platform, watching the Wind family owner said. The Wind family owner heard a tremble in his heart, and there was the embarrassment on his face. Everyone knows that this soil has long been the thing that Qingmu Shaozuan has decided. The so-called rules and tests are only a form for Qingmu Shaozuan. However, the Wind family owner did not expect that Jian Wushuang, an uninvited guest, was killed halfway and easily defeated Qingmu Shaozuan. If he offered him this way, he would undoubtedly offend the youth. There is more than one young priest in the Qing family. That is the supreme power that truly has the supreme power. I said at last, give it to me. Jian Wushuang saw the cold in his eyes, and his eyes flashed away. Suddenly, the owner of the Wind family only felt a big terror between life and death, and he was trembling. He didn't dare to hesitate anymore, and he trembled and offered the soil. Sword Wuxia took the soil, and a smile appeared on his face unconsciously. The congenital 5 elements of qi, finally collected successfully. It's time to really start the bronze ancient tripod. Jian Wushuang's heart was full of thoughts, and speaking, he was also looking forward to what the bronze ancient tripod would look like after the 5 elements were completed. However, he didn't notice the distant Qingmu Shaozuan. His face was already gloomy to the extreme. He clenched his fists tightly. A wave of humiliation turned into a violent murder, and he was stirred in the chest. This person can never be the master. No master in the universe can defeat me. Yes, this person must be supreme. Only the supreme will be far superior to me. Qingmu Shaozun's murderous flashes, and his arrogant arrogance. He will never admit that in this world, someone who can dominate the realm can defeat him. He Qingmu Shaozuan, the protagonist of this universe, is the darling of heaven and earth. How could he be defeated? Just when Jian Wushuang was about to pick up, and was about to leave Tianhuang Star Field, he couldn't hold back anymore, shattered his waist bag, and shouted with a distorted expression, "What about the Supreme? The Supreme must not shame me. Please, ancestors." Boom! The voice fell, and in the middle of Tianhuang Starfield, a white-haired old man suddenly opened his eyes and patted him directly across the distance. The speed of this palm reached the extreme, blinking in 1,000 miles, the mighty and constantly growing, finally covering the sky and pressing hard against the sword unparalleled. Suddenly, the Nansha Islands were torn apart, and the surrounding sea set off thousands of waves, and numerous seawater rolled up, connecting heaven and earth, forming a turbulent water column. Everyone on the island was scattered as birds and beasts terrified. The sword, which had already been swept up, swept to the sky. Her pupils shrank instantly. Extreme. At the next moment, the power of Jian Wushuang's whole body exploded, turning into countless sword gas interweaves, forming a palm, and heading towards that mighty one, causing the supreme capsized heaven and earth to collide away. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.